Chapter 271. Chapter 271. Who will kill Qin Hao for me? If the dog spirit was hit, even if it didn't die, it would be severely injured. But how could it make a losing deal? Once it succeeded, it immediately retreated. Bang! Yan Wanshan's fist smashed into the ground, and the ground caved in, creating a deep crater. From this, it could be seen how powerful he was. It was obvious how deep his hatred for the dog spirit was. An enraged peak 9-star Yuan master was indeed not to be underestimated. The members of Father Axe Gang were stunned by the scene before them. Qin Hao had single-handedly killed more than 10 of their companions. Unable to put up any resistance at all, a single arrow had killed more than a dozen Master Yuan cultivators. They were all champions of the martial arts competitions of various countries. What was even more shocking was that he had released a wild dog. The wild dog was a level 9 Xian beast. This was simply unheard of and unimaginable. The moment the dog spirit appeared, it even swallowed Vice Gang leader Yan's manhood. But it was only for a moment. After reacting, Du Ziding immediately attacked Qin Hao. Among the dozens of Father Axe Gang members who died for him, some were his subordinate. He and Qin Hao were equally irreconcilable. Scram! Nalanli was right in front of him. How could Qin Hao retreat? He struck out with his palm. Rumble! His palms collided with Du Ziding's, and the earth shook. At this moment, the dog spirit also retreated and rushed towards Du Ziding. Du Ziding panicked. The dog spirit was a 9th-rank Xian beast, which was on par with him in terms of strength. Facing a pincer attack, he could only choose to dodge. As soon as he dodged, Qin Hao immediately seized the opportunity. A palm print landed on the big tree that was binding Nalanli. Following a loud explosion, the big tree was shattered into pieces, and Nalanli was freed from her bindings. "Ye warehouse!" Qin Hao shouted loudly. He lifted Nalanli's shoulder and threw her outside with all his might, sending her flying. Understood. Yi Shuihan was already waiting by the side. The shoes on his feet flashed brilliantly. Before the members of Father Axe Gang could do anything, he jumped up and caught Nalanli steadily. At this moment, several swords and sabers streaked across Yi Shuihan's head, cutting off a few strands of his hair. It was extremely dangerous. Yi Shuihan screamed like a ghost and ran out with Nalanli in his arms. He ran faster than a rabbit and left the attack range of Father Axe's gang in an instant. "Damn it! Bastard! Leave him here!" Yan Wanshan and Du Ziding were furious. They waved their hands and ordered everyone to chase after Yi Shuihan. "Let's see who dares." Qin Hao stood alone in the middle of the road, exuding the aura of a king. No, not celibacy. He also had a dog with him. The dog spirit rolled its eyes and squatted at Qin Hao's feet, chewing something slowly in its mouth. Judging from its appearance, it seemed to be eating with relish. Yan Wanshan was filled with grief and indignation. He was so humiliated that he almost spat out blood. He covered his crotch with both hands as blood flowed down his pant. His legs were trembling as he struggled to walk up. He gritted his teeth and pointed at Qin Hao. "Qin Hao, I want you to die a horrible death." "You want me to die a horrible death? Let's see who will die a horrible death today." Half of the members of Wild Daddy Gang were dead. Yan Wanshan was seriously injured and his strength had decreased. Only Du Ziding was difficult to deal with. Now that he had the help of the dog spirit, Qin Hao was not afraid of them at all. He even had the ability to kill them. Since this enmity had been formed, even if Qin Hao let Yan Wanshan go today, Yan Wanshan would not let Qin Hao go in the future. Therefore, he had to be decisive when killing. Wild Daddy Gang and Axe Gang had harmed many people. Leaving them alive would be a disaster. He might as well send them to the afterlife. Taking this opportunity, Qin Hao could also improve his and Yi Shuihan's marks. Killing many birds with one stone. Why not? "Big brother, we have saved them. Let's go," Yi Shuihan shouted anxiously. He had a strong premonition that Qin Hao was not willing to leave. He seemed to want to kill Yan Wanshan. This idea was too ridiculous. Even if Wild Daddy Gang had lost half of their members, Yi Xuehan did not think that Qin Hao had the ability to kill everyone. After all, Qin Hao was hiding in the grass and shooting arrows, which created the current advantageous situation. With Qin Hao's public appearance, the current advantageous situation no longer existed. Du Ziting and Yan Wanshan were peak 9-star Yuan masters. They had a few 8-star Yuan masters under them. Qin Hao wanted to fight with a dog. Obviously, he was tired of living. Nalan Li's eyes were wide open as she looked at the back of the bad guy in front of her. Of course, she did not forget Qin Hao. When she was helpless, the first person she thought of was him. Unfortunately, she thought that she could not escape this time. Unexpectedly, Qin Hao appeared again and successfully saved her a second time. This filled Nalan Li's heart with gratitude, as well as a trace of shame. But she also knew that now was not the time to thank Qin Hao. The danger in front of her was not over yet. Boy, I really admire you. You dare to save people from our hands twice in a row. Moreover, facing so many Yuan masters, you are still so calm. I don't know if you are stupid or just pretending to be calm. Du Ziting sneered. He was extremely angry. Cut the crap. Whoever kills Qin Hao will be rewarded with 3 supreme-grade Great Yuan pills. Moreover, I, Yan Wanshan, see him as my brother. If I eat meat, my brother will eat soup. Yan Wanshan's eyes were bloodshot. His eye sockets were about to burst. His hatred for Qin Hao could no longer be expressed in words. Especially when Qin Hao released the wild dog and swallowed his family jewels. At this moment, he had been listed as Yan Wanshan's mortal enemy. Only Qin Hao's death could vent Yan Wanshan's anger and wash away the humiliation of not being able to have any descendants. Everyone looked at each other. Greed flashed in their eyes, but more than that, they were afraid. The Great Yuan pill could replenish Yuan Qi, and Yan Wanshan gave a supreme-grade pill. It was very tempting. However, Qin Hao had a 9th-grade Xian beast beside him, which was enough to intimidate most of them. Other than the 3 supreme-grade Great Yuan pills, I will also give you a middle-grade sword. Seeing that no one dared to make a move, Yan Wanshan gritted his teeth and took out a sword from his sumeru pouch. This sword was incomparably sharp. The body of the sword was engraved with patterns. It looked very impressive. The material of the sword had reached the level of a middle-grade refined weapon. Yan Wanshan had taken it when he robbed others of their marks. However, it was not an ordinary middle-grade refined weapon. The patterns engraved on it were a set of armor-piercing inscriptions, which greatly increased the power of the sword. It was not an exaggeration to say that it was a high-grade refined weapon. When this sword appeared, the people who were already tempted became even more tempted. I, Demao, am willing to become your brother. I am willing to kill this person for you. Finally, Demao could not hold it in anymore. He was a disciple of the Sword Quest sect in Guangshao country. He was very fond of swords. Originally, he liked this armor-piercing sword very much. He had begged Yan Wanshan many times. Yan Wanshan was very stingy and did not give it to Demao. Now that he had the chance to obtain the armor-piercing sword, how could Demao waste it? He could tell that Qin Hao wasn't strong at all. He was just a mere 4-star Yuan master. He was only able to kill so many people by hiding in the dark and using underhanded method. In a direct confrontation, he was definitely not Demao's match. Chapter 272. Chapter 272. I have a sword named Graceful Good. From now on, Demao is my blood brother. Anyone who goes against Demao is my enemy. Brother Mao, this armor-breaking sword is a gift for your brother. After we take down Qin Hao, I have more gifts for you. Remember, don't kill him with one strike. Don't let him die so easily. Yan Wanshan's voice was hoarse. As he spoke, he threw the armor-piercing sword at Demao. Good sword, good sword. De Mao held it in his hand. His eyes were filled with ecstasy and his heart was filled with excitement. It was very important for a swordsman to have a peerless divine soldier. There was no doubt that this armor-piercing sword engraved with armor-piercing inscriptions was the sharp blade of the divine soldier that De Mao longed for. Qin Hao, if you're a man, why don't you fight me one-on-one? If you're not a man, then kneel on the ground and kowtow to my brother Shan as an apology. Then, hand over Nalan Li and your interspatial ring. De Mao held the armor-piercing sword and pointed it at Qin Hao's nose with a smug look on his face. He was quite cunning. He was afraid of the dog spirit's strength and declared that he would fight Qin Hao one-on-one. He even tried to goad him with his words. One had to admit that De Mao was very smart. After all, he had lost the help of the dog spirit. Qin Hao was just a weak 4-star Yuan master. He was definitely not a match for De Mao, who was an 8-star Yuan master. In his opinion, Qin Hao was not even worth a fart. At this moment, a burst of sword qi suddenly rose and circled around De Mao. The sharpness of the sword qi forced the members of Father Axe Gang to retreat, their faces filled with fear. Clearly, the armor-piercing sword had imperceptibly increased De Mao's battle prowess. Perhaps even an ordinary 9-star master wouldn't be his match. If Qin Hao dared to agree, he would definitely die. Nice to look at but useless. Brother dog, back off. Qin Hao sneered. Without the help of the dog spirit, I have become a pushover, right? I'm sorry, but you're really blind. Roar. The dog spirit nodded and obediently retreated to Yi Shuihan's side. It had been with Qin Hao for so long, so it naturally understood Qin Hao's strength. On the other hand, Yi Shuihan swallowed his saliva with difficulty. Was Qin Hao out of his mind? Even if he was a 7-star Yuan master, even if he had a bow and arrow. However, in a close-range battle, arrows were completely useless. A one-on-one duel with De Mao was no different from seeking death. I'm good-looking but useless? Haha. You'll soon know who's useless. In the face of Qin Hao's mockery, De Mao was also very angry. As the dog spirit retreated to the side, he let out a shout and charged forward with his sword in hand. This set of sword skills was the Sword Quest Sect's secret technique. It was a low-level mystic class sword skill called Flirtatious Sword Skill. The first move, Sword pierces the firmament. With one move, he slashed at Qin Hao's shoulder. The power of an 8-star Yuan master erupted, and the sword qi was unstoppable. Since Yan Wanshan had said that he would break Qin Hao's arm first if he didn't want to let him die comfortably. Whoosh! The long sword slashed down. It hit Qin Hao's body. It actually slashed him into two with one move. The crowd immediately erupted into cheers. Qin Hao was actually so weak and useless. If he had known earlier, he would have gone up himself. The sword pierces the firmament was indeed worthy of its reputation. It was indeed the flirtatious sword skill. However, it was a pity that Qin Hao, who had been slashed into two, once again appeared at the side. What De Mao struck was merely an afterimage. Not bad, kid. De Mao was stunned. Qin Hao's speed was not bad. He heaved a sigh of relief. Fortunately, he didn't kill Qin Hao with one move. Otherwise, Yan Wanshan would definitely be dissatisfied. Fast speed is just that. Next move, I'll break your leg first. As he spoke, De Mao made the second move. The second move, sword moves the universe. With a trace of lightning and thunder, it slashed toward Qin Hao's legs at an extremely fast speed. He couldn't let Qin Hao die too easily. First, he would chop off his legs, then his arms, and then he would kick him in front of Brother Shan. It was wishful thinking on De Mao's part. Swish. After this move, he really chopped off Qin Hao's legs. Immediately, De Mao raised his head and laughed. No matter how fast you are, can you be faster than my sword? The members of Father Axe Gang swallowed their saliva in shock and looked at each other. Qin Hao was indeed useless. They regretted that they shouldn't have made a move earlier. If they had done so, They could have gotten the benefits from Yan Wanshan and become his brothers. Your flirtatious sword, how many more moves do you have? Use all of them. They were stunned. Qin Hao's voice rang out. He appeared at the side again. His body was intact and his hands were behind his back. He looked very relaxed. De Mao's sword moving the heavens and earth actually struck another afterimage. De Mao couldn't help but be furious. Qin Hao's movements were quite difficult to deal with. If he continued to escape, it would be difficult to hit him. Do you only know how to run? What kind of hero are you to hide? Do you dare to take my sword? De Mao took a few deep breaths and suppressed his anger. He tried to provoke Qin Hao again. Fine, I won't hide this time. You try to hack me. Qin Hao smiled. The space ring on his back emitted a red light. No one saw this scene. Only Yi Shuihan saw it. Yi Shuihan shook his head. He was sure that Qin Hao would take out his bow and arrow. But what was the use of that? At such a close distance, Yi Shuihan didn't think that Qin Hao could kill De Mao. Shameless boasting. I will teach you how to be a man with this sword. Die. As an 8-star Yuan master, De Mao felt ashamed that he couldn't hit Qin Hao with 2 consecutive sword attacks. He felt ashamed of the armor-piercing sword in his hand. He thought that the armor-piercing sword would be ashamed of him. Therefore, he decided to directly cut off Qin Hao's head with the 3rd sword to wash away his shame and win back the dignity of the armor-piercing sword. The 3rd move of the coquettish swordsmanship, my sword seals the sky. The sword stirred up the wind and clouds. It attracted heavenly lightning that wrapped around the sword. My sword seals the sky was indeed not for show. De Mao waved the sword and sword shadows filled the sky. The sword shadows shrouded Qin Hao's head, leaving Qin Hao nowhere to hide. This time, no matter how fast he was, he couldn't dodge my sword seals the sky. Seeing this, Yi Shuihan shook his head helplessly. Qin Hao was most likely going to die. Yi Shuihan silently activated his rabbit boots and prepared to escape with Nalanli. However, on the other side, all the members of the Axe Gang, including Du Zidong and Yan Wanshan, nodded with smiles. Qin Hao was definitely going to die. This move of my sword seals the sky was extremely powerful. Its lethality reached the level of a 9-star Yuan master. Moreover, it covered a large area. Qin Hao wouldn't be able to escape. Sigh. Let him die comfortably. It's a good thing to die in the hands of my brother. Yan Wanshan muttered coldly and secretly clamped his crotch. He had finally avenged the death of his family line. Clang! A muffled sound of hammering suddenly spread out. The sound was so loud that it seemed to reverberate in everyone's ears. Their ears were numb. In front of them, the sword shadows of my sword seals the sky fell. The scene of Qin Hao's head flying didn't appear. On the contrary, the armor-piercing sword in De Mao's hand was shaken into the sky. It was shaken into the sky by a beam of red light. At this moment, everyone saw that there was a sword in Qin Hao's hand. It was a long sword that was emitting blood-red light. This sword had shaken a medium-grade refined weapon that was engraved with the inscription of armor-piercing sword. Your flirtatious sword technique disappointed me. I also have a sword technique called graceful sword. After saying this, Qin Hao moved. Chapter 273. Du Zidong the Invincible Quick. Incomparably fast. It was unbelievably fast. It was so fast that his ancestors De Mao was going to die. He had never seen such a sword art in the Sword Quest sect. It was not something that could be wielded by a human. It was as swift as a divine sword. It was stunning. De Mao could not understand how there could be such a fast swordsmanship in this world. What was even more puzzling was that his armor-breaking sword had clearly struck the blood sword. Not only was the blood sword not cut in half, but the armor-breaking sword was also knocked out of his hand. The material of the broken sword was a middle-grade sharp weapon. With the enhancement of inscriptions, it was as sharp as a high-grade sharp weapon. Even so, It couldn't compare to the strike of the blood sword. At this moment, a blood-red light flashed in front of his eyes. Damao's head soared into the sky. With a gulu sound, it fell to the ground and rolled to the foot of Yan Wanshan. With all sorts of questions in mind, Damao's body crashed to the ground. Qin Hao raised his hand and grabbed the armor-piercing sword that was sent flying into the sky. He threw it into his spatial ring. Silence. Dead silence. The scene was so quiet that it made one's hair stand on end. With a single slash, he had slain an 8-star Yuan master. After killing the 8-star Yuan master with the help of inscriptions, Qin Hao casually put the armor-breaking sword into his own pouch. Including Du Ziding, at this moment, everyone was shocked by the scene before them. Their eyes bulged, their necks stretched out a foot, and their mouths were wide open in disbelief. The person whose jaw dropped the most was Yi Shuihan. He thought that Qin Hao was dead for sure. He thought that Qin Hao would take out a broken bow. He believed that Qin Hao's lousy bow would not be able to withstand a single blow. In the end, it was the other way around. The one who died was Damao. The one who couldn't withstand a single blow was also Damao. This was undoubtedly a slap to Yi Shuihan's face, waking him up. It turned out that Qin Hao was actually this strong. He was so strong that he could instantly kill an 8-star Yuan master. He was so strong that he could snatch the white blade with his sword. While he was reaping the heads of others, he had also taken the treasures of others into his pocket. The shock brought by Qin Hao was simply too great. The only one who could remain calm was Dog Spirit. The Dog Spirit's mouth was still smacking as it slowly chewed on Yan Wanshan's indecent food. It was savoring it, slowly enjoying it. Before it could swallow it, Qin Hao's battle had already ended. Its rolling eyes seemed to be telling everyone, "You bunch of ignorant things, this is the result of being my master's enemy." My second brother. After a long while, an earth-shattering cry resounded. Yan Wanshan looked at the head at his feet in disbelief. Damao's eyes were filled with confusion and even fear. He died with his eyes wide open. Yan Wanshan had just lost his family jewels, and it wasn't easy for him to get a second brother. Now, his second brother had left him. Qin Hao, I want you to die a horrible death, you traitor who deserves to be hacked to death. Yan Wanshan's heart was bleeding. His lifeblood was swallowed. Second brother had been killed. The armor-piercing sword had been stolen. This enmity would not rest until one of them was dead. Good sword, good sword. In contrast to Yan Wanshan, Du Ziding stared at the purple meteorite sword in Qin Hao's hand. His eyes were filled with greed. It was a mid-grade sharp weapon that could ignore the armor-breaking inscription and send Damao flying. Obviously, Qin Hao's blood sword was made of high-quality materials. It was probably at the level of a low-grade weapon. What a rare treasure! This sword was at least sharper than Du Ziding's rotten axe. What was even rarer was that Qin Hao's strength was so trashy. In Du Ziding's eyes, Qin Hao wasn't strong as a person, but as a sword. He relied on that sword to kill an 8-star Yuan master. Without that sword, Qin Hao was as weak as dirt. Brother Wanshan, if I kill this person, are you willing to become my sworn brother? Of course, I don't want to be your second brother, Du Ziding said eerily. He had his eyes on Qin Hao's sword. He had to get it, but he would never be Yan Wanshan's second brother. Big brother, if you help me get rid of this person, from now on, you will be my big brother. I, Yan Wanshan, will go through fire and water for you. If you ask me to go east, I will definitely not go north. Yan Wanshan was so smart that he recognized Du Ziding as his big brother. His genitals were swallowed and he had a terrible injury. It was not suitable for him to fight. His hatred towards Qin Hao had already reached the point where it could not be any greater. Qin Hao must die. Even if Yan Wanshan lowered his status and became Du Ziding's second brother. Okay, from now on, you are my second brother. Anyone who goes against you is going against me, Du Ziding. Du Ziding said proudly. He had fought with Yen Wanshan for so long, but Yen Wanshan had never bowed down. Now, he was willing to be his second brother. Du Ziding was very proud of this. Brother Shan, since you are my second brother, you don't have to enjoy Nalanli anymore. After killing Qin Hao, why don't you give her to me? You are disabled and you don't have that ability anymore. Du Ziding said as he patted Yen Wanshan's shoulder. Okay, I promise you. As long as Qin Hao dies, I don't care about anything else. Yen Wanshan also threw caution to the wind, pointing at Qin Hao and gritting his teeth. Since that is the case, why don't you give Tian Shinran to me first and let her serve me well? Du Ziding was extremely sinister. He was still not satisfied. He wanted to maximize the benefits. He wanted to squeeze the value out of Yen Wanshan. Yen Wanshan was disabled and could no longer satisfy Tian Shinran. Of course. Tian Shinran, why don't you get in front of Brother Du and serve him well? Yen Wanshan stared at Tian Shinran fiercely. Anyway, she was Ho Daji's woman and Yen Wanshan had tasted her. He would treat her as a broken shoe and throw it to Du Ziding. Brother Wanshan, how can you be so heartless? Didn't we agree that we would never leave each other and grow old together? Tian Shinran protested. Who wants to stay by your side? Who wants to grow old with you? To be able to serve me, Big Brother Du, is your good fortune from 8 lifetimes. Why? Are you still unwilling? Yen Wanshan subconsciously tightened his grip on his axe. If Tian Shinran didn't agree, he would kill her immediately. No, in fact, I am very willing. Since you are a eunuch, I will be wronging myself if I stay by your side. Tian Shinran quickly ran to Du Ziding and hugged his arm with a fawning look. Her eyes became blurred as if she was worshipping him. This was exactly the same as when she abandoned Ho Daji and threw herself into Yen Wanshan's arms. Bitch! Yen Wanshan cursed in his heart. What a two-faced and heartless woman. Ha ha! Wonderful, wonderful! Du Ziding was even more proud. Not only did Yen Wanshan become his second brother, but he also offered his woman. He couldn't help but twist the black hair on his face, closed his eyes and showed an expression of enjoyment. But in the next second, his closed eyes suddenly opened. His eyes flashed with a sharp light as he stared at Qin Hao. Very good, very good. You little brat, to be able to become a ghost under my axe is also your good fortune. Chapter 274. Chapter 274. Not on the same level. Qin Hao, why aren't you kneeling before me? At this point, Du Ziding suddenly let out a roar, and the aura of a peak 9-star Yuan master was quite imposing. If it was an ordinary person, they might really be scared to their knees by him. At least the members of Father Axe Gang shuddered at the same time. Unfortunately, Qin Hao was not an ordinary person. He did not move an inch. Boss, why don't you throw the sword to him and let's run? Yi Shuihan was shocked by Du Ziding. His heart was beating wildly. Qin Hao was able to kill De Mao, an 8-star Yuan master, but he was no match for Du Ziding. Du Ziding was only a hair away from advancing to the origin ancestor level. Kind big brother, I'm very grateful to you. Don't lose your life because of me. At this moment, Nalanli spoke up. Her imprint had been sucked away by Du Ziding, and she had seen how powerful Du Ziding was. The 3 moles on his face made Nalanli feel especially fearful. She also didn't think that Qin Hao was Du Ziding's opponent, unless the 3 moles were on Qin Hao's face. Qin Hao shook his head. He was really worried about Yi Shuihan and Nalanli's IQ. It was just a bluff, and you guys were scared to this extent. You guys might as well be a dog spirit. Seeing that Qin Hao was indifferent to his prestige, Du Ziding was very unhappy. He took a step forward and said, Kid, you don't have to deliberately mystify things and put on an act. You're actually scared to death. Do you see the 3 moles on my face? This is the mark of a bad guy. The black hair on the mole is the best among bad guys. And my coffin face, It's an existence that only exists in legends. He pointed at his face and said, "Today you must die. Die under the black hair on my face." While speaking, Duziding slowly took out the short axe from his waist and steadily pressed down on Qin Hao. He didn't think that Qin Hao would be a match for him. After all, Qin Hao was just a trashy 4-star master. Other than hiding in the dark and shooting arrows, Qin Hao was useless. Only the blood sword in his hand was powerful. But no matter how powerful he was, he still couldn't make up for the gap between him and Duziding. "Don't compare me to that trash, De Mao. I'm a pinnacle 9-star Yuan master. My Yuan Qi, speed, and defense are several times stronger than yours. Your sword can't hurt me in the slightest. This is the result of being my enemy. Recognize my coffin face and remember the black hair on my face. In the next second, you will report to the King of Hell's palace and tell him that the person who killed you is the legendary expert Duziding." Duziding's heroic words of killing people were also extremely coquettish, and the scene burst into applause. Along with the applause, he directly made his move. He raised the short axe high and chopped down at Qin Hao's face. But in fact, this was a feint. He would change the rules of the axe at the last minute and slash at Qin Hao's neck. After all, Qin Hao's blood sword was indeed extraordinary. He was not prepared to meet force with Qin Hao's blood sword. He would rely on his rich battle experience and exquisite movement techniques to take Qin Hao's rotten life. At least, that was what he thought. This was because he had cultivated a body flash technique, which could increase his speed by 1-fold in an instant. Within the same level, he was almost invincible. He had always kept this trump card, and even when he fought with Yan Wanshan, he did not reveal it. Qin Hao was a mere 4-star Yuan master, and it was even more impossible for him to dodge his flash technique. At that time, the axe would drink Qin Hao's blood, and he would seize Qin Hao's blood sword. Nalan Li would also fall into his embrace. To be able to die under the flash technique, it would be Qin Hao's honor. Duziding's face was filled with dreamy longing, and he had already run in front of Qin Hao. The short axe in his hand emitted a sharp blade light and he swung it. Midway, he suddenly changed his direction, from a downward chop to a horizontal chop, and slashed at Qin Hao's neck. And Duziding's running body suddenly flashed, and he also flashed from Qin Hao's front to the side. On the other hand, Qin Hao seemed to have not reacted, and was stunned on the spot. Duziding would definitely succeed in this attack. As expected of our gang leader. Yeah, his movement technique is so sharp, and his axe is even sharper. I suddenly feel that gang leader Du is very powerful now, even more powerful than vice gang leader Yin. The kid who shot the arrow is dead. He will definitely not be able to withstand 3 moves from gang leader Du. 3 moves? You think too highly of him. I think he won't even be able to withstand 1 move. Yeah, he will definitely be killed in 1 move. Cut the crap. Let's clap. Instantly, applause filled the sky, and it was extremely enthusiastic. The way the members of Father Axe Gang looked at Qin Hao was no different from looking at a corpse. In the field, just an inch away, Duziding's axe was on Qin Hao's neck. He was ecstatic. He had succeeded. Clang. The sound of metal colliding suddenly rang out, and Duziding, who was in a beautiful dream, was stunned. This should not be the sound of an axe cutting into a neck. What was going on? He took a look and was dumbfounded. His short axe had not cut into Qin Hao's flesh. It was obviously blocked by a blood sword. Moreover, Qin Hao had put the sword on his back and blocked his axe from one side. His posture was handsome and elegant. This scene made everyone's souls leave their bodies. Fast. Too fast. It was simply inhuman speed. No one saw how Qin Hao made his move. At the critical moment, he had predicted the enemy's move, sensed the position of Duziding's attack, and made a response. Even Duziding's flash skill did not work at all. This calmness and composure, as steady as Mount Tai, was incomparably admirable. "The mark on your hand is Nalan Li's?" Qin Hao said coldly. His eyes were still fixed on the front, and he ignored Du Ziding, who was beside him. Du Ziding felt a chill in his heart, and all the hair on his body stood up. Qin Hao's reaction was so fast that even his rich combat skills had no effect on him. Immediately, Du Ziding calmed his mind and gritted his teeth. "Yes, I stole it from her. What can you do to me? Trash of a 4-star Yuan master. In my eyes you are like shit. I can do whatever I want to you. I am a genius and you are dog shit. If you are not convinced, bite me." Du Ziding was 21 years old, and became the #1 genius of the Dragon and Tiger sect. With the strength of a 9-star Yuan master, he crushed all the experts of the 4 nations martial arts tournament and successfully advanced. How could he put Qin Hao in his eyes? As I said just now, your vitality, speed, and defense are not on the same level as mine. You are like a blind cat that met a dead mouse, and you blocked my axe without thinking. In fact, I can easily send you to heaven with another attack. Remember my coffin face, remember the 3 moles on my face. They only exist in legends. After saying this, Du Ziding attacked again. His left fist suddenly punched out, wrapped in a thick green yuan qi, heavily aiming for Qin Hao's head. This attack was fast and ruthless. It was extremely vicious. He believed that Qin Hao would definitely not be able to dodge his second attack. Of course, Qin Hao would not be able to dodge. In fact, he never thought of dodging. My vitality, speed, and defense are not on the same level as yours, right? That's right, we are not on the same level. Qin Hao sneered. He clenched his left fist against his cheek. Creak. He twisted Du Ziding's fist. The strong force was like a tiger's pincer, and Du Ziding's face turned pale. He immediately let out a scream, and blood came out of his teeth. Seizing the opportunity, Qin Hao kicked Du Ziding's knee. Crack! Chapter 275. Who could be worse off than me? Crack! This scene blinded everyone's triangular eyes. Yi Shuihan craned his neck and stuck out his tongue. His eyeballs were about to pop out. Nalan Li's eyes widened. There was no situation where Qin Hao was defeated. Instead, Du Ziding knelt at the feet of Qin Hao. Is this an illusion? The members of Father Axe Gang were also shocked. These champions of the martial arts competitions from various countries were so shocked that their jaws almost dropped to the ground. Their applause didn't even stop. When Du Ziding knelt down, the crowd was still enthusiastic. As for Yan Wanshan, he felt as if he had been struck by lightning. His eyes were filled with disbelief. This was simply unbelievable. He was very clear about Du Ziding's strength. He was stronger than Yan Wanshan. Especially when Du Ziding used the flash body technique. He emitted a dangerous aura that made Yan Wanshan's heart palpitate. He never thought that he would be as weak as an ant in front of Qin Hao. It was as if Du Ziding had taken the initiative to run over and seek death. This. What the hell? Who told you that I'm a 4-star Yuan master? Qin Hao chuckled. His aura increased once again, and his origin chi rose to a height of 5 meters above his head, illuminating the forest. His yuan chi, speed, and defense were not on the same level as Du Ziding, right? I'm sorry, but I'm actually a 7-star Yuan master. Furthermore, I'm not an ordinary 7-star Yuan master. Kicking away Du Ziding's axe, Qin Hao stepped on his head. At this moment, there was no longer any need for him to conceal his strength. Thus, he released the aura of a 7-star master. Who was the weak dog shit? Who was it that couldn't withstand 3 moves? Who was the helpless one? Qin Hao used his strength to shut everyone's mouth. The surroundings were silent. Even without the dog spirit gang leader, I am still strong. Even without the blood sword in his hand, his speed and defense still surpassed Du Ziding's. You just need to remember. My name is Qin Hao. Qin Hao waved at Nalanli and asked her to come over. As he spoke, he coquettishly used a famous saying from Yi Liangchen. Under everyone's panicked expressions, Nalanli was stunned. Then, she took the initiative to walk over. There was no longer any fear in her heart. Even the guy with 3 moles was no match for Qin Hao. What was there to be afraid of? Big brother, thank you. Nalanli revealed a smile that she hadn't seen for a long time. Her smile was very innocent. However, she didn't dare to get too close to Duziding as she still had a shadow in her heart. Absorb his imprint. Qin Hao patted Nalanli's shoulder and looked at her encouragingly. No. No way. Hearing that he was going to absorb his mark, Duziding's pain immediately disappeared. He was extremely flustered. Since the start of the competition, he had robbed countless people and killed countless Xian beasts. It had taken him a lot of effort to raise his mark to stage 6, and it was about to reach stage 7. Now, it was going to be taken away by Qin Hao. But Qin Hao raised his hand and slapped him. He sneered and said, "Don't you like to occupy other people's imprints? Don't you like to take things away from others? Now you should have a taste of it. And you guys," Qin Hao pointed at the members of Father Axe Gang. "If you think you can escape from my arrows, you can try to escape. Especially you, Yan Wanshan. If you can be faster than my dog brother, if you don't want your head to be swallowed, try to escape too." Roar. The dog spirit jumped to the side of Yan Wanshan. He rolled his eyes and stared at his bleeding crotch. "Brother Hao, let us go. Actually, we were forced to do this. We are good people. Man's nature is good at birth. We were bewitched by Du Dog and Yen Dog. That's why we did such a heinous thing." Clatter. The members of Father Axe Gang knelt to Qin Hao at the same time. Those who knelt on the ground were the champions of the martial arts competition. In the past, these champions were high and mighty. Now, they were all kneeling in front of Qin Hao. They even threw away the swords in their hand. They really didn't have the ability to escape from Qin Hao's merciless arrows. "Master Hao, I was blind and offended you. Actually, I, Yan Wanshan, am a good person. When I was young, I aspired to be a teacher, to teach and educate people, and to raise good children. When I was free, I would read, write, or fish. Please be merciful and spare my worthless life. I've already become a cripple." Yan Wanshan screamed at the top of his lungs. He was afraid that the dog spirit next to him would swallow him again. He was miserable. His family jewels were already broken. His second brother was also dead. The armor-breaking sword fell into Qin Hao's hands. He was already in such a miserable state. Qin Hao still didn't let him go. He even mercilessly took away his imprint. He was really heartless. Now you want to beg for mercy? You want to be miserable? Back then, when you were robbing others, when those weaker than you were begging for mercy, did you ever give them a way out? Did you ever think that if they lost their imprints, it would mean that they would lose their future and would never be able to become a disciple of the Scarlet Sun Academy? Or even die in your hands in the end? If I was weaker than you today, I'm afraid you wouldn't let me live, right? Qin Hao sneered. That's right. Brother Hao, you're absolutely right. I was forced by Yan Wanshan. In order to survive, I succumbed to his crotch and was even humiliated by him. I'm just a weak girl without any strength. Now I've met the right man in my life. Brother Hao, I'm willing to serve you forever. I'll never leave you and grow old together with you. Tian Shinran finally found an opportunity. Her eyes were misty. She opened her arms and wanted to hug Qin Hao's waist. Go away. Qin Hao's eyes turned cold. He shouted and Tian Shinran retreated. You're a weak girl? If you're weak, why did you participate in the competition? Do you think I'm an idiot? Who wants to stay by your side? Who wants to grow old with you? If there's someone who's stronger than me right now, I'm afraid you'll leave me without any hesitation and kneel under someone else's crotch in the next second. Qin Hao had seen through women like Tian Xinran long ago. She was the same as Tang Fei. There's no time to waste, little silly girl. Don't you want to become a disciple of Qiyang University? Don't you want to find your sister? If that's the case, I can fulfill your wish. Yi Warehouse, it's your turn. Qin Hao shouted at Yi Shuihan. Although I'm coming. Yi Shuihan hopped over with a smug look on his face. His eyes seemed to be saying, Look, this young Master Yi, this old Hao is my big brother. With him protecting me, you won't be able to touch me at all. In fact, Yi Shuihan was indeed very proud at this moment. Qin Hao had taken his Xianyuan pill to become a 7-star master. Without his help, Qin Hao wouldn't have become so powerful. At the end of the day, Yi Shuihan had contributed the most. Therefore, it was only right for him to take Du Ziding's mark. No. I want to become a disciple of Qiyang University. I want to find my sister. Big brother, I'll listen to you in the future. I'll let my sister repay you. Nalan Li took a step forward and mercilessly separated Yi Shuihan from Du Ziding. She slowly squatted down and reached out her small arm. She aimed the mark at Du Ziding's hand. Buzz. There was a flash of light. Du Ziding's mark was transferred to Nalan Li. Nalan Li's mark was now at stage 6. It was higher than her previous mark. She was now qualified to become a disciple of Qiyang University. Chapter 276. For your sake. Oh no! No. 2 shrill screams rang out at the same time. This time, it was Du Ziding who shouted. He had worked so hard to upgrade his imprint, but it was taken away by a little girl who looked down on him. This little girl was once his prisoner. Du Ziding felt incomparably sad and indignant. The other shout was from Yi Shuihan. Qin Hao had already agreed to let him absorb the mark. Soon, he would be able to transfer Du Ziding's mark to himself and become an outstanding student of Qiyang University. It was such a wonderful thing, but in the end, it missed Yi Shuihan. Qin Hao, I will remember this, Du Ziding said with a trembling face. His eyes were filled with a monstrous, killing intent. In response, Qin Hao also smiled. Facing death, Du Ziding still dared to be arrogant. What? You think I'll let you leave alive? Hearing this, Du Ziding's expression changed greatly. His body trembled as he retreated. You've already taken away my axe and mark. What else do you want? If someone dies in the competition, they'll be held accountable. I'm from the Dragon and Tiger sect, and there are seniors from my sect in Qiyang University. If anything happens to me, they won't let you off. Whoosh! Qin Hao was too lazy to listen to his nonsense. With a slash of his sword, Du Ziding's threats came to an abrupt end. Blood gushed out from his neck, and he died on the spot. Just like that, a 9-star pinnacle Yuan Shi, a prodigy of his generation, had fallen. Qin Hao had his own principles when doing things. Even if he let go of Du Ziding today, Du Ziding would not let go of Qin Hao in the future. How could he give the other party a chance to take revenge? If he had to kill, he would kill. Qin Hao bent down to pick up Du Ziding's sumaru pouch and tossed it to Yi Shuihan. Then, he coldly looked at the others. Brother Hao, I was wrong. I'm not a human. Please spare my life. I won't dare to bully little girls in the future. To be honest, I feel ashamed for the Wild Daddy gang. This is a trash gang. I regret it. I'll give you the sumaru pouch and the treasured sword. There's 10,000 gold in the sumaru pouch. There are 20 chi replenishing pills in my sumaru pouch. We'll give them all to Brother Hao. Qin Hao had killed Damao, who was an 8-star Yuan master, and Du Ziding, who was a 9-star Yuan master. In order to survive, they also used all means, fighting to give the sumaru pouch to Qin Hao. He even wanted to take off his underwear and give it to old Hao. Very good. Qin Hao gave Yi Shuihan a look and ordered him to collect everyone's sumaru pouches, including their weapons. There were more than a dozen sumaru pouches and more than a dozen refined weapons. Although they were not as precious as old man Ouyang's private goods, they could not be wasted. Qin Hao was very relieved to have Yi Shuihan take care of it. Yi Shuihan had no use for anything. He couldn't eat pills, and didn't know how to use a sword. He could only be Qin Hao's storage. His wealth at Qiyang University was still in Qin Hao's hands. Brother Hao, I'm also willing to turn over a new leaf. Please give me a chance to be a new person. I'll tell you the truth. I have a cousin called Mount Ibaraki. He's an outer disciple of Qiyang University. He's ranked 8th on the Outer Disciple Earth leaderboard. You should know how strong he is. If you let me go today, I'll be merciful. I won't care that your dog ate my manhood. I won't care that you're a traitor. I'll even give you Nalanli. But if you dare to hurt a hair on my head, my cousin will make sure you die without a burial place. Ahahaha, Yan Wanshan leaned on his battle axe and laughed maniacally. So what if Qin Hao's archery was strong? So what if he was strong? So what if he killed Duziding? I have a strong backer at Qiyang University. It's strong enough to kill Qin Hao 1,000 times. You dare to touch me? My cousin will make you beg for death. At this point, Yan Wanshan regained his arrogance. He even pointed at Qin Hao's nose and said, "That's why I advise you to be smart, you bastard. Protect her and pass the competition safely. Maybe I'll find you pleasing to the eye and put in a few good words for you in front of my cousin and ask him to take care of you. If you don't, I'll make sure you suffer the consequences. Are you done with your nonsense?" Qin Hao slowly raised the blood sword in his hand. The murderous intent on his face grew stronger. He hated being threatened. He hated it even more when people bullied others just because they had a backer. Yan Wanshan must die. Qin Hao, think carefully. You won't have a good ending if you make me your enemy. If I die, I'll make sure your whole family is buried with me. Yan Wanshan panicked. He was so scared that he squatted on the ground. Ride a crane to the west. Qin Hao's sword fell sharply. Stop! In the midst of the crisis, a figure rushed over at an extremely fast speed. Moreover, this person's body was surging with blue yuan qi. This was a Yuan Zong elite. Clang! A ball of sparks exploded in front of Yan Wanshan. The rushing figure waved his blade and blocked Qin Hao's sword. The strength of this blade was so great that it forced Qin Hao to take a few steps back. However, this person didn't feel good either. His body trembled violently. His hand was numb, and the blade in his hand almost fell to the ground. It could be seen that Qin Hao's strength was not to be underestimated after he unleashed his full strength. At the very least, this Yuan Zong couldn't kill him easily. Friend, you've already taken so many treasures. Why are you in such a hurry to kill them all? This Yuan Zong stood in front of Yan Wanshan, and the blue yuan qi on his body became denser. He was on high alert. Qin Hao's strength was enough for him to take him seriously. With the arrival of this person, the scene became silent again. However, the eyes of the members of the Wild Daddy gang changed, and they looked at Yuan Zong with admiration. There was a trace of pleading and expectation in their eyes. They hoped that Yuan Zong would fight with Qin Hao and kill Qin Hao. As long as Qin Hao died, their sumru pouches would be back. Brother Suofeng, you're here. Yan Wanshan immediately cried out. The Yuan Zong elite who had saved him was called Zhao Suofeng. He was from the Dali Kingdom like Yan Wanshan. The Dali Kingdom was vast and powerful. There were 3 examination halls. Yan Wanshan was the champion of the 3rd examination hall. Zhao Suofeng, who was a Yuan Zong, was the exceptional genius of the 1st examination hall. However, after the allocation, Zhao Suofeng had fallen to the 2nd platform. Therefore, Qin Hao didn't see him on the 3rd platform. You're from Yan Wanshan? You want to protect him? Qin Hao asked coldly. There was no fear in his tone. Even if the other party was from the Ming Yuan Zong, Qin Hao wasn't afraid with his current cultivation. That's right. I'm protecting Yan Wanshan. If you want to live, you'd better get out of my way. Zhao Suofeng was a newly promoted one-star Yuan Zong. When Qin Hao saw him, he didn't flatter him obediently. He even dared to put on a straight face. This made Zhao Suofeng very unhappy. He thought that Qin Hao was provoking him. Yan Wanshan's cousin was in the outer sect of Qiyang University. He was ranked 8th on the Earth Roll and was extremely powerful. If Zhao Suofeng saved Yan Wanshan, Mount Ibaraki would definitely take care of him after he entered Qiyang University. Qiyang University wasn't peaceful either. It would be difficult for people without power to gain a foothold. They might even be bullied. If that's the case, I'll do you a favor, Qin Hao said nonchalantly. At least you know what's good for you. Zhao Suofeng was so proud that his nose was almost in the air. His expression seemed to be saying, "Look, I'm so powerful. You bunch of useless people can't deal with me. After seeing me, Zhao Suofeng, you'll still be obedient. Don't worry. I'm doing you a favor by leaving Yan Wanshan's corpse intact. I'm thinking highly of you," Qin Hao sneered. Suddenly, his eyes narrowed. The purple meteoric sword soared like a dragon and pierced towards Yan Wanshan's throat at lightning speed. Chapter 277. Absolute Strength. You're courting death. Zhao Suofeng snorted and swung his saber at Qin Hao. He had already shown great kindness and was willing to take a step back. As long as Qin Hao left obediently, he would not pursue the matter. Who would have thought that Qin Hao would be insatiable and insist on killing Yan Wanshan? Zhao Suofeng was a newly promoted one-star Yuan Zong who stood at the top of the pyramid. How could he allow Qin Hao to jump around wantonly in front of him? This was an insult to Zhao Suofeng, a serious provocation and humiliation to him. This saber strike would turn into Qin Hao's nightmare and end his life. Zhao Suofeng did not hold back at all with this saber strike. The blade was wrapped in blue essence energy, and the entire blade turned blue. A strike that could slash the heavens and shatter the earth would make Qin Hao disappear from the world. He also admired Qin Hao's courage in seeking death. The scene in front of them made the surrounding people overjoyed. Some even clapped their hands and cheered. Qin Hao must be tired of living if he dared to provoke a Sky Origin ancestor. He had snatched everyone's Sumru pouches and could finally return them to their rightful owners. Unexpectedly, something unexpected happened again when Qin Hao's blood sword was about to collide with Zhao Suofeng's divine saber. A black-clothed figure, as fast as a shooting star, suddenly emerged from the nearby bushes. His movement technique was extremely fast, and his body was also covered in blue yuan qi. His primordial qi was even thicker than Zhao Suofeng's. As soon as the black-clothed figure appeared, he struck a palm at Zhao Suofeng's back. This sudden turn of events caused everyone to scream. Qin Hao wanted to activate the Golden Bell protection and take Zhao Suofeng's attack head-on before killing him. Unexpectedly, the black-robed man interfered. However, it was only for a moment. Qin Hao immediately reacted and switched from offense to defense. The blood sword was filled with a soft force. When it collided with the divine blade, it seemed to have turned into an invisible sludge. Not only did it attract Zhao Suofeng's blade technique, it even caused his blade to be trapped in Qin Hao's sword net. It was difficult for him to escape. Bang! The black-clothed man's palm landed heavily on Zhao Suofeng's back. His palm technique was extremely ferocious. It shattered Zhao Suofeng's protective aura on the spot and sent him flying 7 or 8 meters into the air. He fell to the ground and blood gushed out of his mouth. Zhao Suofeng was extremely shocked. The palm strike made him twitch all over. It also made him realize that the person who had ambushed him was stronger than him. Just as he was about to raise his head and curse, at this moment, a foot stepped on his head mercilessly, pressing Zhao Suofeng's arrogant face into the ground. Qin Hao retreated to the side, coldly watching the scene before him. He recognized the black-clothed figure that had suddenly appeared. He was a handsome young man with a fair complexion and a tall and straight body. The black-clothed youth had once appeared on the third platform. His initial imprint was as high as the third phase, and he was the strongest person on the third platform. At that time, he was also a character that Qin Hao was very wary of. Brother Wind-Sucking, how have you been? The youth in black stepped on Zhao Sufeng's head and sneered. Currently, there was an 8th imprint on his arm. It was obvious how terrifying his ability was. Yuan Huai, F*CKU. Fight me face to face if you're so good. What's the point of ambushing me? Zhao Sufeng was already severely injured after taking Yuan Huai's palm strike head-on. With Yuan Huai's arrival, his heart had completely turned cold. In fact, even if he was in perfect condition, he would not be Yuan Huai's match at all. Fight you face to face? Are you even worthy? The corners of Yuan Huai's mouth slowly curled up as he spat a mouthful of phlegm on Zhao Sufeng's face. Since the start of the competition, he and Zhao Sufeng had fought countless times. Every time, Zhao Sufeng had been defeated and had run away. He had been chasing Zhao Sufeng for many days. It was very difficult for Yuan Huai's imprint to level up. Killing those Origin Master level champions. No, killing those weak trash Origin Master level champions had no effect on him at all. Therefore, his hunting targets were similarly Sky Origin Ancestor level powerhouses. Yuan Huai could only reach the unprecedented 9th stage by robbing the Origin Master's imprint. He would become the first core disciple in Qiyang University's history and have the qualification to enter the inner courtyard. This was the reason why he had attacked Zhao Sufeng. As for Qin Hao and the others, he did not even bother to look at them. In Yuan Huai's eyes, Qin Hao was just a piece of trash. He did not even have the desire to kill him. Young Master Huai, I admit defeat. I admit that you are the strongest new student in Qiyang University this year. Please let me go. I, Zhao Sufeng, am willing to be your dog and work for you. Zhao Sufeng's face had been stepped on by Yuan Huai, and his mouth was filled with mud. He had actually seen Yuan Huai kill other Origin Master level elite. He had even ambushed him in the dark. In the end, his ambush had failed and he had almost been killed by Yuan Huai. Yuan Huai's abilities were unfathomable. At this point, he had no choice but to lower his head. In order to protect his mark, Zhao Sufeng was willing to become Yuan Huai's lackey. This scene caused everyone to be extremely shocked. Who was this black-clothed kid, Yuan Huai? Even though they were both Origin Masters, Zhao Sufeng was begging for mercy and was willing to become a dog. It was simply impossible to even imagine it. Zhao Sufeng was a Origin Master level elite, yet he had lowered his status. I'm sorry, but you are not qualified to be my dog. Yuan Huai sneered. Then, he stepped on Zhao Sufeng's neck. Crack! Breaking Zhao Sufeng's neck was as easy as stepping on an ant. He bent down and aimed his arm at Zhao Sufeng's imprint. There was a flash of light and Zhao Sufeng's 7th stage imprint disappeared. Yuan Huai's 8th stage imprint shone even brighter. His imprint's level was too high and he could only slowly store the imprints of Origin Masters. Once he reached his limit, he would be able to become a 9th stage core disciple. Silence. Dead silence. The scene fell silent again. Everyone held their breaths and did not dare to breathe. If a needle fell to the ground, everyone would be scared to death. They stared in horror and could not say a word. In front of Yuan Huai, the powerful Yuan Zong elites were like ants that could be casually trampled to death. They did not dare to make a sound as they were afraid that they would attract Yuan Huai's attention and be killed easily. This was a true genius. This was a true demon. If everyone present was a champion, Yuan Huai would be the overlord. He was the absolute king. He was the most dazzling pearl at the top of the pyramid. Young Master Huai, I am willing to be your slave. Please take me as your slave. Young Master Huai, it is my great fortune to meet you. My ancestors are extremely honored to be your slave. Young Master Huai, please take me with you and let me dominate the outer gate of Qiyang University and get the prettiest girls." After a long while, everyone finally came to their senses. One by one, they knelt in front of Yuan Huai and kept kowtowing as if they were welcoming a god. Yuan Huai's strength was undeniably powerful. It could even be said that in the entire outer gate of Qiyang University, even the top 10 seniors on the Earth leaderboard would not dare to provoke Yuan Huai. If they could cling onto his thigh tightly, they would be like fish in water and soar to the sky in the future. "Young Master Huai, my cousin is Mount Ibaraki. He is ranked 8th on the Earth leaderboard of Qiyang University. If you are willing to protect me and successfully pass the competition, my cousin will definitely thank you. Of course, if you want me to kill Qin Hao, it would be a piece of cake for you. To you, killing him is just a matter of waving your hand. I implore you to kill Qin Hao." Yan Wanshan clamped his pants and threw himself at Yuan Huai's feet. If he did not please Yuan Huai now, he would definitely die in Qin Hao's hands in the next second. As for Yuan Huai's choice, without even thinking, he would definitely agree to Yan Wanshan's request. Chapter 278. Be My Dog. To be honest, I've been waiting for the one I love. He's a hero of the world. My Mr. Right has finally appeared. Bad young master, I've admired you for a long time. Please give me a chance to warm your bed. I, Tian Shinran, am willing to be your lowly servant forever and ever. Tian Shinran's eyes were filled with amorous feelings. She clutched her heart. She was about to suffocate. Yuan Huai was so young, so handsome, and so powerful. Killing Yuan Zong experts was as easy as squashing ant. He was hundreds of times stronger than Qin Hao. Yuan Huai was the prince that Tian Shinran dreamed of. As for Qin Hao, he was nothing but dung, a clown. How could I resist a beauty throwing herself at me? Your little face is really not bad. Facing everyone kneeling down, even Yan Wanshan was like a slave at his feet. Yuan Huai's face revealed an expression of enjoyment. As Tian Shinran took the initiative to throw herself into his arms, his expression became even more comfortable. He stretched out his hand and stroked Tian Shinran's hot and excited face, all the way to her neck. Creak! Suddenly, Yuan Huai exerted strength in his palm, and his large hand tightly gripped Tian Shinran's neck. Her neck was squeezed into a small wooden stick. Tian Shinran didn't even have time to scream. Her eyeballs bulged as she was mercilessly strangled to death by Yuan Huai. "Ha ha! You want to be my woman? Why don't you take a piss and look at your own face? You don't even have the qualifications to be a lowly servant, yet you dare to come out and act coquettishly. You don't know what death is." Yuan Huai loosened his grip. Tian Shinran's body fell limply to the ground, dead. Yuan Huai was born in the Tianlong country, which was a 5th-grade country, while the Jiang country was only a 1st-grade country. Its area was dozens of times larger than the Jiang country. In fact, the Celestial Dragon country was on the verge of becoming the 4th empire in the western Liang land. There were countless beautiful women in Tianlong country, but none of them could move Yuan Huai's heart. In his eyes, Tian Shinran was no different from a whore in a brothel. How dare she cling onto Yuan Huai's thigh? And you? Who does your cousin think he is? The reason why I came to participate in this competition is to flatten the outer campus of Qiyang University. I want to flatten the inner campus, slap the elders, and beat up the deacons. In the end, he completely crushed all the core disciples. So, Yuan Huai looked down coldly and stomped his foot. "You can go to hell too." Crack! Yan Wanshan didn't even have time to react. Similarly, his head was crushed by Yuan Huai's foot. What bullshit was Mount Ibaraki? It was merely ranked 8th on the Outer Yard Earth leaderboard. It was nothing in the eyes of Yuan Huai. He wanted to become the #1 student in Qiyang University in the future. Yan Wanshan actually dared to threaten him. He really didn't know what death was. This, oh my God! Everyone was shocked once again. They couldn't be any more shocked. Yuan Huai was impenetrable. Even a Sky Origin Grandmaster wasn't qualified to be his dog. Even beautiful women couldn't make him waver. He even ignored the seniors on the Earth leaderboard from Qiyang University. Creak. Qin Hao secretly clenched his fist. Arrogant. He had seen arrogant people before, but he had never seen anyone more arrogant than Yuan Huai. However, this person was indeed ruthless and had the demeanor of a king. With a contemptuous smile, Yuan Huai coldly scanned the scene. Wherever his gaze passed, everyone trembled and didn't dare to raise their heads. He looked at the corpses all over the ground and finally fixed his gaze on Qin Hao. He said lightly, "You are not bad." In fact, Yuan Huai had been here for a long time. He hid in the dark and saw how Qin Hao killed Duziding. After all, when Qin Hao fought with Duziding, he didn't hold back at all and unleashed the power of a 7-star Yuan master. Yuan Huai sensed it from afar. He felt that there was an expert here. He liked to kill experts the most. Experts could let his mark level up quickly. In the end, he was extremely disappointed. Qin Hao was only a 7-star Yuan master. What Yuan Huai didn't expect was that Zhao Sufeng actually came here recklessly. At that moment, Yuan Huai's disappointment turned into a trace of surprise. He had long desired Zhao Sufeng's 7-segment mark. Unfortunately, Zhao Sufeng ran away as soon as he saw him. Now, his wish was fulfilled. Unknowingly, Qin Hao seemed to have helped him. "You killed the people on the ground?" Yuan Huai asked again with a cynical smile on his face. "Yes." Qin Hao answered expressionlessly. "That's right." Yuan Huai nodded again. "You killed so many Yuan masters alone. With your weak strength, you can kill a peak 9-star Yuan master. I think highly of you. You are qualified to become a dog under my feet." Boom. Yuan Huai's words caused everyone to be incomparably shocked again. They looked at Qin Hao at the same time. Their gazes were complicated. This complicated look slowly turned into envy. They were so envious that they could die. How glorious was it to be a dog under Yuan Huai's feet. Qin Hao's luck was as great as the heavens. What virtue and ability did he have to be fancied by young Master Huai? One had to know that even Zhao Sufeng wasn't qualified to be Yuan Huai's lackey. Even Yan Wanshan's cousin couldn't catch Yuan Huai's attention. However, he looked at Qin Hao in a different light. "Not only you, but also the little sister next to you. Your name is Nalanli, right?" Yuan Huai smiled faintly. He wiped the blood on his hand on his clothes and tried to be kinder. However, his eyes were full of desire for Nalanli. He was even thirsty. He even had the desire to rush over and swallow Nalanli. "What do you want to do?" Nalanli quickly hid behind Qin Hao and revealed her small head. She was very nervous, and there was a trace of fear in her eyes. Yuan Huai's strength was too strong. Now, the only person she could trust and rely on was Qin Hao. "Sister Nalanli, don't be afraid. Brother Huai won't hurt you. Not only will I not hurt you, but I will also take care of you, protect you, and help you improve your mark above level 8. Yuan Huai took a step forward. He took a step down. It seemed that the ground was trembling. His actions puzzled the crowd once again. Tian Shinran was more voluptuous than Nalanli. She was full of charm. She must be good in bed. Yuan Huai mercilessly pinched Tian Shinran to death. Why was he interested in Nalanli? Could it be was he also a lolicon? The next moment, Yuan Huai gave everyone a reasonable explanation and continued, "Your surname is Nalan. Do you know Naransu, who is ranked 6th in the outer courtyard of Qiyang University?" Yuan Huai was the #1 genius of Tianlong Kingdom. Before the competition, he already knew everything about the outer courtyard of Qiyang University. The Naransu he mentioned was Nalan Li's sister, who was ranked 6th in the Earth list. However, This was not the reason why Yuan Huai took care of Nalanli. The real reason was, the Nalan family was very powerful. Yuan Huai still had not figured out Naransu's background. However, he faintly felt that Naransu was not from the Luoshui Empire. Perhaps she was a member of the Great Wei or Great Zhao Empire's family. Moreover, it was rumored that Naransu was a rare beauty. She was so beautiful that Yuan Huai, who had never been attracted to women, was itching to get to know this beauty. Therefore, Nalanli in front of him would become a bargaining chip in his hand. As long as she seized Nalanli and grasped Nalanju's weakness, she would have to do whatever Yuan Huai told her to do. The premise was that he hoped that Qin Hao would not meddle in other people's business. After all, Qin Hao was qualified to be his dog. Chapter 279. Chapter 279. Go too far. Could it be that you know my sister? Nalanli's big watery eyes were filled with questions, her small brows knitted together. Could it be that Yuan Huai had some kind of relationship with his sister? Miss Naransu is a woman of unparalleled beauty. She's not inferior to men. She's quite famous in the outer court of Qiyang University. She has many suitors. Who doesn't know her? Yuan Huai clasped his hands behind his back and chuckled. They didn't know each other at the moment, but they would very soon. Moreover, they would have a very deep understanding of each other. Thus, he tempted Nalanli and said, "Stay by my side, and I'll bring you to Miss Nalanju. You've seen my strength, and if you follow Brother Huai, no one will dare to bully you. I guarantee that you'll become an outstanding disciple of the Scarlet Sun Institute." "Don't go." Without waiting for Nalanli to speak, Qin Hao said with a gloomy face. Yuan Huai was vicious and merciless. His motive was definitely not simple. He wouldn't be so kind as to protect Nalanli. He must be plotting something. In fact, even if Qin Hao didn't say anything, Nalanli wouldn't have followed Yuan Huai. After the incident of being caught by Yen Wanshan, Nalanli was no longer the silly little girl she used to be. They could also differentiate between good and bad people. She immediately shook her head. The corner of Yuan Huai's mouth twitched. Anger flashed across his face, and his gaze towards Qin Hao turned colder. This trace of dissatisfaction disappeared in a flash. "Don't worry, I won't harm you. Only by following me will you be able to safely pass the test. Even I myself believe that this is the fortune of 8 lifetimes of your hard work. If you don't, it's very likely that a disaster will befall you." Threats. It was a blatant threat. In other words, if Nalanli was not obedient, he would not let her go. "I appreciate your kindness, but I have someone to protect me. I'm very safe. Someone will lead me to my sister." Nalanli held Qin Hao's hand tightly. She wouldn't fall for Yuan Huai's trick. Her long eyelashes fluttered as she turned her head and asked Qin Hao, "Right, big brother?" "Yes." Qin Hao nodded. "With just him?" Yuan Huai pointed at Qin Hao and shook his head. "This person is too weak to protect you. Besides, he's my dog now." "Yuan Huai, show some respect when you speak." A reprimand was heard. Yi Shuihan, who had always been timid, stepped forward. At this moment, he seemed to have changed into a different person. He was no longer timid and his gaze was cold. He regarded Qin Hao as his boss. Even if this relationship was temporary, after all, Qin Hao was currently his boss. From the bottom of his heart, Yi Shuihan also regarded Qin Hao as a reliable friend. He would never allow Yuan Huai to humiliate him. "Who do you think you are?" Yuan Huai was stunned. He had already lowered his status and wronged himself by standing here and talking to Qin Hao. Yi Shuihan was as insignificant as an ant. He actually dared to interrupt. "I'm your father, Yi Shuihan," Yi Shuihan said in a low voice. "Hiss." Everyone gasped. Bold. He was really bold. His guts were almost in heaven. Especially the members of the Wild Daddy gang. They were very clear about Yi Shuihan's strength. He was like trash. He actually dared to challenge Yuan Huai. It was as if his head was stuck in his crotch. He didn't want to live anymore. Yuan Huai was furious. This was the first time someone spoke to him like this. Suddenly, his eyes were filled with killing intent. You don't have to intimidate me with your eyes. To tell you the truth, it won't do you any good if I die. You just need to remember that my surname is Yi. Yi Shuihan's eyes turned cold as he said domineeringly. Qin Hao, who was at the side, was speechless. Yi Warehouse began to fool people again. However, his words did make Yuan Huai obviously stunned, and a hint of fear flashed in his eyes. Surname Ji? The Yi royal family of the Luo Shui Empire? Could it be that he was a relative of Yi Longyuan? Young Master Huai, don't be fooled by this person. His ancestor was a teacher, and he has nothing to do with the Emperor of the Dragon Abyss. He's just putting on an act. A member of the Wild Daddy gang hurriedly crawled over and said. His words were full of flattery. Yi Shuihan simply wanted to jump up and curse. Why did you expose my father's background? Very well, you dare to fool me. You'll die an embarrassing death. Yuan Huai slowly raised his hand and gathered power in his palm, condensing a ball of blue vitality. Boss, save me! Yi Shuihan screamed. The brilliance on his boots floated, and he scuttled back like a rabbit, hiding behind Qin Hao. He muttered, I've already tried my best. My methods aren't enough. Yuan Huai bastard didn't fall for it and saw through my scheme. Yuan Huai, I'll take Nailanli to find her sister. You don't need to worry. Goodbye. Qin Hao carefully protected Nailanli and Yi Shuihan and prepared to leave. It wasn't that he was afraid of the other party. Qin Hao had the ability to come and go freely in front of Yuan Huai. The key was that he had Yi Shuihan, a burden, by his side. With his current strength, the chances of him defeating Yuan Huai were indeed very small. Did I say you can leave? Yuan Huai said coldly. What? You want to keep me? Qin Hao turned his head, his gaze as sharp as a sword. Keep you? Yuan Huai shook his head. You're not worthy. In fact, you're my dog now. You have to be obedient. I'm so kind to you. You have to work hard for your master. Don't dig your own grave. Otherwise, Yuan Huai's voice paused and the corners of his mouth rose again. Otherwise, you're still my dog. But I'll make you a dead dog. To be Yuan Huai's dog was to give Qin Hao a chance to be rich. Qin Hao should thank him. Staying by Yuan Huai's side, Qin Hao would be able to do well in the future. He could do whatever he wanted in Qiyang University. Many people would break their heads to fight for such a good thing. In fact, there were indeed many people who envied Qin Hao. These champions who were lying on the ground around them were even jealous of Qin Hao. With Yuan Huai's protection, he could pass the competition smoothly and upgrade his mark without any effort. They couldn't wait to strangle Qin Hao to death and become Yuan Huai's loyal dog. On the other hand, Qin Hao was not grateful to Yuan Huai. He even dared to disobey him. He really didn't know how to appreciate favors. Yuan Huai, are you very confident in your own strength? Qin Hao let go of Nailanli's small hand and slowly turned around. His cold eyes gathered the will to fight. There was also anger in his fighting spirit. Yuan Huai opened his mouth and said that Qin Hao was his dog. For Dendi, it was an extreme trampling. Even Duan Ziju, who had destroyed Phoenix Island, didn't humiliate Qin Hao like this. Yuan Huai should be killed. If it wasn't for the fact that he wanted Yi Shuihan and Nailanli to leave safely, Qin Hao would have already taken action. He had endured it many times. Now, he couldn't endure it anymore. Interesting. Seeing that Qin Hao wanted to resist, Yuan Huai laughed coldly. His laughter was filled with contempt. A mere dog dared to rebel against its master? It's not that I'm confident in my own strength, but I think that you're too confident in your own ability. Fine, since you don't know how to appreciate favors, I can only turn you into a dead dog. Even if you die, you'll still be my Yuan Huai's dog. Don't you feel especially honored and proud? Ah. Yuan Huai raised his head and laughed unscrupulously. In his eyes, Qin Hao was still an insignificant dog. A weak dog would never be able to rise again. Roar. With an angry roar, without waiting for Qin Hao's order, the dog spirit pounced forward. Chapter 280. Battle of Yuan Huai. His huge body was like a lion hunting a rabbit. His sudden attack caught everyone off guard. They didn't expect Qin Hao's Xian beast to stand up for his dignity. Yuan Huai was stunned for a moment. When he came back to his senses, he was furious. The dog spirit was aiming for his crotch. If he was bitten by it, wouldn't his family line be cut off and he would become a eunuch? Immediately, the blue yuan qi of his origin ancestor realm surged and protected his entire body. Bang! With a dull thud, the dog spirit slammed into the shield, and sparks flew out of its head. The disparity in strength was too great, and it was unable to break through Yuan Huai's defensive barrier. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Yuan Huai mercilessly swept out with his yuan qi, which spread through the dog spirit's body. With a sorrowful cry, the dog spirit was sent flying backward, crashing heavily into Qin Hao's feet. This attack did not take the dog spirit's life, but it did leave a wound on its thigh. The dog spirit roared in protest. Its mouth twitched, but its eyes were still fierce. It tried to get up from the ground and pounce on Yuan Huai again. However, its thigh was about to be removed. The wound was extremely deep, and blood flowed out like a stream. It struggled to get up, but its body swayed, and it fell to the ground again. Brother dog! Qin Hao hurriedly took out some golden sore medicine to treat the dog spirit. The fury in his eyes as he looked at Yuan Huai increased exponentially. The dog spirit had accompanied Qin Hao all the way here from Jiang country. He was the closest person to Qin Hao. He had never treated the dog spirit as a pet, but as a friend or even a brother. Roar! The dog spirit pondered for a moment, indicating that it wasn't a problem. However, its eyes seemed to say that Yuan Huai had to die. You're just a lowly dog. You overestimate yourself. Yuan Huai pursed his lips, not taking it seriously at all. Yi Warehouse, take good care of my dog brother. Qin Hao tossed the Jinchuang ointment to Yi Shuihan and strode forward with his sword in hand. Step by step, he strode towards Yuan Huai. His aura grew stronger with every step he took, causing his hair to flutter without any wind. His actions stunned everyone. Was Qin Hao really going to be young Master Huai's enemy for a dog? No one was optimistic about Qin Hao. In their eyes, Qin Hao couldn't even deal with Zhao Sufeng. Yuan Huai, on the other hand, crushed Zhao Huofeng like he was crushing an ant. He was invincible. Qin Hao was very powerful and could kill the 9-star Duzideng. But no matter how powerful he was no match for Yuan Huai. It would be a miracle if Qin Hao could surpass the sky origin level barrier and kill Yuan Huai. The gap between Master Yuan and Sky origin sect was irreparable. Boss, if you're no match for him, I'll help you. Yi Shuihan was also extremely unhappy with Yuan Huai. He was too arrogant. His chest heaved up and down with anger. Yi Shuihan held a thunder fireball in his palm. Once Qin Hao failed, he would throw the thunder fireball at Yuan Huai without hesitation. Me too. Nalanli waved her small hand and activated the primal qi in her body, forming a small array in front of her. She was actually a spiritual array master. Moreover, judging from her technique, she seemed to be quite accomplished. Unfortunately, it was no threat to the powerful Yuan Huai. Qin Hao was implicated by Nalanli, which was why he was targeted by Yuan Huai. Therefore, Nalanli would not stay out of this. Their actions warmed Qin Hao's heart. He knew very well how timid Yi Shuihan was. At the crucial moment, he stood on the same side as Qin Hao. This friendship was hard to come by. He smiled faintly and said, Don't worry, I don't care about this kind of guy who always has a crooked mouth. Arrogant, Yuan Huai roared. He really liked to unconsciously have a crooked mouth. This was a form of contempt towards his opponent. He felt that it was natural and he had the capital to do so. Qin Hao looked down on his crooked mouth. He was really tired of living. I'll give you one last chance. Be my dog peacefully. This is your honor. If you don't, only death awaits you. Yuan Huai pointed at Qin Hao's nose and said, I'll also give you a chance. Kneel in front of my dog brother and slap yourself 3 times. Then, hand over the mark and I'll spare your life. Qin Hao's sword was ready to strike. Ha ha ha. In response, Yuan Huai shook his head and laughed. You're the first one who dares to make me kneel. Since you're so stubborn, then you can go and be a dead dog. In the next second, Yuan Huai's aura rose rapidly. A strong pressure swept over. He raised his palm and slapped towards Qin Hao's face. I'll destroy you in one move. As soon as he moved, Qin Hao immediately moved too. Using the water wind steps, his figure was like lightning. In an instant, he disappeared from the spot. This movement technique was even better than Du Zhiding's flash technique. Du Zhiding's flash technique could only be used once in a second. Qin Hao quickly flashed 3 times. 1, 2, 3, he suddenly appeared behind Yuan Huai. A sword fell. Yuan Huai's reaction was also very agile. His palm missed and he hit his back. At the same time, his body retreated quickly. Swoosh. Qin Hao's blood sword slashed across Yuan Huai's throat. It was only a hair's breadth away from cutting his Adam's apple. A muffled thud was heard. Yuan Huai's palm landed squarely on Qin Hao's chest. Qin Hao couldn't help but retreat. His feet drew 2 long marks on the ground. Blood seeped out from the corner of his mouth. It was obvious that Yuan Huai had the upper hand. But at this time, a strand of hair fell from Yuan Huai's temple to the ground. Qin Hao's sword was not in vain. I've really underestimated you. Yuan Huai's eyes narrowed. His pupils shrunk to the size of a needle. There was a hint of dissatisfaction on his face. That palm just now, although it wasn't his full strength, he believed that it was enough to severely injure Qin Hao. However, only a trace of blood seeped out from the corner of Qin Hao's mouth. Instead, his hair was cut. Yuan Huai sensed that Qin Hao's movement technique, coupled with his quick sword, was indeed something. Du Zhiding's death was not unjust. That's not all. The next sword will take your life. Qin Hao's figure flashed and disappeared again. When he reappeared, he was already in front of Yuan Huai. Through the probing just now, he had a clear understanding of Yuan Huai's strength. Yuan Huai was not a simple 1-star primordial ancestor. His palm technique was extremely profound. He was probably about to break through to 2-star. Moreover, like him, he could also kill enemies of a higher level. Therefore, Yuan Huai's combat strength was probably on another level. He was comparable to a 3-star primordial ancestor. This was the reason for Zhao Sufeng's death. Coincidentally, the attack power of a 3-star primordial ancestor was completely within the defensive range of the Golden Bell protection. This time, Qin Hao took out his trump card without hesitation. After he got close, an illusory defensive shield was activated. An even faster sword slashed toward Yuan Huai's head. This sword was a graceful sword. This tactic was originally used to deal with Zhao Sufeng. Now, it was used by Yuan Huai. You're like a moth flying into a flame. You're digging your own grave. Die. Faced with Qin Hao's continuous provocation, Yuan Huai was also at his limit. The blue primordial qi in his palm surged. It was incomparably dense, and it struck heavily toward Qin Hao's chest. This was Yuan Huai's full-force palm strike. It had reached the terrifying strength of a 3-star primordial ancestor. Duong. A sound similar to a bell rang out. This palm directly shattered the golden bell protection and landed heavily on Qin Hao's body. When the palm landed, the sound of bones cracking could be heard. Qin Hao was sent flying like a kite with a broken string. Chapter 281. Refining into body. In the second round, Qin Hao was still at a disadvantage. He was showing signs of defeat. Everyone could clearly see that Qin Hao's chest had caved in from Yuan Huai's attack. Who knew how many of his bones had been broken? In fact, Yuan Huai's strength was even more terrifying than Qin Hao had imagined. He was actually able to shatter the Great Void Cauldron's golden bell protection. However, Qin Hao showed no signs of fear. A warm current flowed from his heart and flowed throughout his body before finally gathering between the fingers of his right hand. This feeling was too familiar. It was the God-fiend essence blood in his body that was reacting. Back then, the muscular old man had struck Qin Hao's head with his palm in an attempt to kill Qin Hao. Not only did that palm strike fail to take Qin Hao's life, it even leveled him up. What was different was that this time, the energy of the God-fiend blood essence gathered on Qin Hao's finger, causing the spatial ring to become abnormal. If one looked carefully, they would discover that Qin Hao's interspatial ring was flashing with a mottled red light. Qin Hao didn't understand what was going on, but he instinctively felt that the spatial ring would bring about miracles. This miracle was enough for Qin Hao to reverse the situation and kill Yuan Huai. You actually didn't die. Yuan Huai stood rooted to the ground, seemingly absent-minded. Compared to Qin Hao, he was even more surprised. That palm strike just now was his full-strength attack, and it was enough to kill a 3-star Yuan ancestor. To put it bluntly, he could easily kill 10 Zhao Sufings. But he didn't kill Qin Hao. What the hell? Just as Yuan Huai finished speaking, a drop of liquid dripped onto the back of his hand. He looked down, the back of his hand was covered in blood. He wiped his face. He felt more blood. There was a small wound on his face that was burning with pain. It was cut by Qin Hao's sword. It had been many years since Yuan Huai had experienced the taste of pain. None of his opponents even had the chance to touch him. In this world, only his father had the ability to injure Yuan Huai. Today, Qin Hao had scratched his face. In his eyes, Qin Hao was just a dog. The dog that he looked down on. You deserve to die. Yuan Huai felt a strong sense of shame welling up in his heart. His face twisted fiercely. With the first strike, Qin Hao cut off his hair. The second sword slashed his face. The third sword had yet to be used. Yuan Huai didn't dare to think further. He felt a little scared. Qin Hao was clearly as weak as an ant, but he had created incredible things time and time again. He didn't know how many trump cards Qin Hao still had, but he felt an inexplicable sense of fear. He absolutely could not allow Qin Hao to continue growing. Immediately, Yuan Huai attacked again. This time, he took the initiative to attack. Once again, he attacked Qin Hao with his palm. Seeing this, everyone shook their heads at the same time. Qin Hao was most likely going to die. It was useless to struggle. How could he stir up trouble in young Master Huai's hands? Yi Xuehan and Nalanli were extremely nervous. They were ready to attack at any time. Come! Qin Hao didn't retreat. Instead, he advanced and slashed down with the purple meteorite sword again. After receiving 2 strikes from Yuan Huai, the God-fiend blood essence in his body became more and more restless. He had a premonition that a miracle would happen if he received 2 more strikes. Bang! As expected, Qin Hao was sent flying again by Yuan Huai. Without the protection of the golden bell, the injury from this palm strike was even more serious. Yuan Huai's palm strike passed through Qin Hao's chest, creating a hole in his clothes. Torn cloth flew everywhere. He didn't give Qin Hao any chance to fight back. His attacks rained down on Qin Hao's body. Qin Hao was on the verge of collapse. In one breath, he blasted out dozens of palms. Midway, Qin Hao lost his grip on the purple meteorite sword and fell to the ground. Yuan Huai pushed him back more than 10 meters and he rolled on the ground. At this moment, Qin Hao's body was covered in wounds. Many parts of his body had caved in. He was in a very sorry state. He couldn't even get up. Yuan Huai was also exhausted. He pressed down on his knees and began to pant. He had vented all his anger on Qin Hao. He had consumed a lot of energy. "You dog, you took dozens of palms from me and you're still alive." Yuan Huai's face became extremely ugly. Qin Hao was beaten to this state, but he was still lying on the ground and smiling at Yuan Huai. Wasn't his defense a bit too shocking? He wondered if Qin Hao was made of human flesh. In fact, even though Qin Hao had cultivated the inextinguishable samsara arts, he was now an arrow at the end of its flight. If Yuan Huai continued, it was very likely that he wouldn't be able to last much longer. Unfortunately, Yuan Huai was also at his limit. His hands were numb from the beating. At this moment, the godfiend blood essence in Qin Hao's body finally came alive from Yuan Huai's beating. The raging waves of energy completely activated the great void cauldron in his hand. A mysterious and powerful flow of energy flowed from Qin Hao's interspatial ring through his 8 meridians and into his entire body. Qin Hao smiled. This flow of energy was the energy of weapons. If he guessed correctly, the godfiend blood essence was guiding the great void cauldron to refine the weapons stored in the interspatial ring. Qin Hao had collected quite a number of weapons. There was Old Man Guihai's broken butcher's knife, Long Aotian's weapon, and Wu Jintao's broken Tianwu armor. There were countless of them. The great void cauldron actually refined these broken weapons and turned them into vital energy, pouring it into Qin Hao's body. This was a high-end masterpiece of refining weapons into the body. A sea of vital energy nourished Qin Hao's body. Qin Hao's flesh greedily devoured it. His meridians became wider, his muscles became stronger, and the vital energy in his body was unprecedentedly strong. The injuries on his body almost instantly improved. At this moment, Qin Hao's cultivation had reached a level that terrified everyone. "Laugh, continue laughing, you idiot. Watch me smash your dog head with one punch." Yuan Huai took 2 short breaths and rushed forward. He felt that Qin Hao was a masochist. The harder he was beaten, the happier he was laughing. Yuan Huai couldn't stand Qin Hao's smile. It was as if the smile was mocking Yuan Huai's incompetence. It was as if Qin Hao was saying, "You can't kill me, you're too useless. Hurry up and hit me a few more times so that I can continue to enjoy myself." Yuan Huai had never met someone as crazy as Qin Hao. He felt that it was more strenuous than fighting the 10 Sky Origin Grandmasters. He couldn't stand Qin Hao living in this world anymore. This punch was wrapped in powerful blue vital energy. It was like a drill that ruthlessly blasted toward Qin Hao's head. If he was hit, his head would explode. "How dare you!" Yi Shuihan and Nalanli roared at the same time and attacked almost at the same time. However, there was someone who was faster than them. Qin Hao, who was lying on the ground on the verge of death, suddenly jumped up like a corpse, his muscles bulging. When Yuan Huai's fist came, Qin Hao also punched with his right fist. At this moment, dazzling blue vital energy enveloped Qin Hao's body. The vital energy was incomparably destructive and tyrannical to the extreme. Qin Hao had broken through to the Sky Origin Grandmaster realm. Boom! The 2 fists collided. The earth shook and the ground caved in half a meter deep. A ripple spread out from their fists like a water circle, engulfing the entire area. Whether it was the nearby Wild Daddy gang members or Yi Shuihan and Nalanli, who had rushed over, all of them spat out mouthfuls of blood and fell to the ground. The scene was incomparably shocking. "This is impossible. How did you do it?" Yuan Huai's mind went blank. Intense fear flashed across his eyes. His fist had been blocked by Qin Hao. What was even more unbelievable was that Qin Hao's body was surging with the blue vital energy of a Sky Origin Grandmaster. What on earth had happened to his ancestor Qin Hao? With a violent beating, he beat Qin Hao into a founding ancestor. Chapter 282. Technique. Are you surprised? Actually, I'm also very surprised. The corners of Qin Hao's mouth slowly rose. He imitated Yu-Bun and revealed a standard Yuan Huai's smile. After he finished speaking, he turned his fist into a palm and slapped Yuan Huai across the face. Pa! This sound was extremely loud and clear. You actually slapped my face? Yuan Huai was stunned and did not react. Ever since he was young, he had never been slapped in the face by anyone, not even his father. He was a peerless genius, the lofty young Master Huai. Everyone should fawn on him, kneel before him and tremble. Others should be so lowly. However, Qin Hao, an insignificant character, had slapped his honorable face. Pa! Another slap. I'm going to slap your smug face. Pa! The third slap. Pa 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 pa. Qin Hao's palm swept out like a gust of wind, slapping Yuan Huai's face like raindrop. Yuan Huai's head swayed left and right, and a pile of his big teeth flew out. He was like a falling leaf in a rainstorm, unable to fight back. This scene was exactly the same as when Yuan Huai blasted Qin Hao. Now, Qin Hao returned it all back, instantly beating Yuan Huai into a pig head. This scene also shocked everyone's nerves. Wasn't Yuan Huai invincible? Wasn't he invincible? Wasn't Qin Hao a dog in his eyes? He could only take a beating without the slightest bit of resistance. Just now, Yuan Huai clearly had the upper hand, but Qin Hao suddenly counterattacked. This shouldn't be the case. Everyone's jaws dropped to the ground. Even though Qin Hao had suddenly become a Sky Origin Grandmaster, he was still a newly promoted Sky Origin Grandmaster. However, this newly promoted Sky Origin Master was so powerful that Zhao Sufeng could not compare to him at all. Even Yuan Huai himself almost fainted from anger. His face had been completely deformed. It was likely that his crooked mouth would never change back in this lifetime. Get out of my way! Yuan Huai roared furiously. An even more ferocious aura erupted from his body, and Qin Hao, who was in front of him, was repelled with a single blow. I'm a genius, a peerless monster. You're just a dog. How can you compare to me? Open your dog eyes and take a good look. I'm a 2-star Yuan ancestor. Under Yuan Huai's angry roar, the violent blue Yuan Qi on his body became even more violent. His aura also rose from a 1-star Yuan ancestor to a 2-star. At this moment, he regained his confidence, and his pig-headed face once again curled up the corners of his mouth. You're the one who should scram. Get down. Qin Hao was fearless. Clenching his fists, he raised his head and roared. Buzz. The blue Yuan Qi on his body rose as Yuan Huai's aura rose, and his aura steadily suppressed his opponent. The dragon-like energy circled around Qin Hao's body non-stop. Bam! It shattered the blue Yuan Qi on Yuan Huai's body. Yuan Huai was like a meat bag. He was so shaken that he vomited blood and fell heavily to the ground. One blow. Qin Hao had shattered all of his defenses. This is impossible. This can't be real. How can there be such a ridiculous thing? Yuan Huai was about to go crazy. He had never been defeated before, but not only had he been defeated by Qin Hao, but he had also been defeated. He had also been slapped in front of everyone. He had even used the power of a 2-star Yuan ancestor, but he was still no match for Qin Hao. Don't think that you can beat me like this. I still have a trump card that I haven't used yet. Qin Hao, I want you to die a horrible death. Yuan Huai crawled up from the ground, almost losing his mind. As he spoke, 2 golden rays of light burst out from his eyes. The golden rays carried the pressure of lightning, making people not dare to look directly at them. It was as if Yuan Huai's gaze was enough to shatter the enemy's bones. He had actually cultivated ocular techniques. Ocular techniques were an extremely strange technique. It had always been viewed as an unorthodox method by Yuan ancestor and was despised by others. Throughout the divine wilderness continent, Those who had cultivated ocular techniques were all sinister and merciless people. Ocular techniques were closely related to the grade of one's mental strength. The higher the mental strength, the greater the pressure. Although ocular techniques were not recognized, they were indeed shockingly powerful. Once cultivated to a certain level, they could be used unexpectedly and cause serious damage. Yuan Huai's trump card had indeed surprised Qin Hao. As he spoke, Yuan Huai blasted his ocular technique at Qin Hao. He was secretly pleased with himself. He possessed a 9th-grade mental strength. One ocular technique was enough to make Qin Hao uneasy and even cause him to have a mental breakdown. He could take advantage of this opportunity to kill him. In fact, when Qin Hao saw the golden light in Yuan Huai's eyes, he had already hugged his head and screamed in pain. "My head is so dizzy, my vision is so dark, and my head is swollen. I don't have any strength at all. Why is this happening?" "Ha ha ha. You're dizzy, right? Your vision is dark? Your head is swollen too? This is just the beginning. I said that I would let you die a horrible death. You cannot withstand a single blow from my coquettish ocular technique. Crushing you will be like crushing an ant." At this point, Yuan Huai walked forward and pointed at Qin Hao, who was in pain. "Do you admit defeat? Do you admit that you're my dog?" In Yuan Huai's opinion, Qin Hao did not even know what an ocular technique was. He was really a country bumpkin. "Sorry, I don't admit defeat. You want me to be your dog? But you're not even qualified to be my dog." Qin Hao's hands that were hugging his head loosened. A faint smile appeared on his face. His expression was the same as a normal person's. The ocular technique did not have the slightest effect on him. Was the ocular technique very powerful? "Sorry, I don't seem to have any reaction." "Was your mental strength very strong?" "I'm so sorry. My soul is at the emperor level." Dendu was reborn. Qin Hao also laughed. Yuan Huai's way of seeking death was too unique. He actually wanted to compete with mental strength. "This is impossible. Are you even human?" Yuan Huai let out a ghostly howl that shook the heavens and earth. His mind was in a mess. Qin Hao was not human. He was a demon, a devil, a monster. However, at this moment, Qin Hao stretched out his hand and firmly grasped Yuan Huai's fingers. His palm angrily exerted force. Crack! The bone-crushing hand of the dragon broke Yuan Huai's wrist. At this moment, Qin Hao's arm was aimed at Yuan Huai's 8-segment mark. A dazzling brilliance flashed and Yuan Huai's 8-segment mark disappeared. When it reappeared, it was already in Qin Hao's hand. "Aren't you a high and mighty genius? Aren't you a peerless monster? Don't you like to torture and kill Yuanzong?" "I am a Yuanzong. I'm standing right here. Try and kill me if you can. You dare to hit my dog brother, but you are worse than a dog." There was a loud smack. Qin Hao slapped Yuan Huai's crooked mouth again. This blow sent him flying more than 10 meters away. It also completely destroyed Yuan Huai's confidence. He let out a tragic howl and no longer had the courage to fight Qin Hao. He turned into a cloud of dust and fled. He fled. Yuan Huai, who was known as a peerless monster, fled with his tail between his legs. "Qin Hao, you and I cannot live under the same sky. How dare you steal my 8-segment mark? If you dare to step into Qiyang University, I will crush your bones." A mournful curse could be heard from afar. Another person who cannot live under the same sky. Qin Hao shook his head. Chapter 283. The test is over. 9th Dan. The sun was setting in the west, and the afterglow shone on the lush forest. The forest buried deep in the mountains was covered in a layer of red light, appearing quiet and harmonious. However, this quiet and harmonious forest was full of danger. There were traps at every step, and corpses were everywhere. Less than 30% of the over 2,000 champions from various countries who came to take the entrance exam for Qiyang University successfully passed the competition. Somewhere in the forest, a group of wild wolves roared angrily, circling back and forth within a range of less than 10 meters. It seemed that a formation had been set up in this area. Although the wolves were furious, they could not escape. Their eyes were filled with despair. This was a group of level 7 Xian beasts. Even though it wasn't considered too strong in the forest, it was still a level 9 Xian beast that didn't dare to provoke it. Wolves were ferocious by nature, especially in packs. Even a level 8 Xian beast could only flee pathetically when it saw them. 10 meters away from the pack of wolves, a petite and graceful figure was waving her jade-like arms. She drew on her yuan qi and injected streams of green yuan qi into the formation in front of her. This young girl was Nalanli. She was a spirit array master. Furthermore, she was no ordinary spirit array master. The speed at which she assembled the array was extremely fast. Even the most complicated array could be completed in a short period of time. As she trapped the wolf pack, an arrow pierced through the air and nailed the neck of a wild wolf in the formation. The wild wolf let out a sorrowful cry and unwillingly fell into a pool of blood. Arrows flew out one after another. In a few breaths of time, more than a dozen powerful 7th-grade Xian beasts were killed. Ha ha ha, this is too cool. My amazing archery skills. Amidst his vulgar laughter, Yi Shuihan smacked his lips and looked at the bow in his hand with satisfaction. With his head held high, he stepped forward to harvest the souls of the wolves with the attitude of a victor. Naturally, his archery skills were taught by Qin Hao. However, it was not the sunset archery technique. The sunset archery technique was too profound and had high requirements for a yuan cultivator. Yi Shuihan was unable to learn it at the moment. What he learned was a set of archery called Condor Archery. The Condor Archery technique was a mid-grade Earth-grade yuan skill. Even though it was not as valuable as a heaven-grade yuan skill, it was enough to make people envious. Big brother Qin Hao, how's my dragon imprisoning array? Compared to Yi Shuihan's archery, Nalanli was more pleased with her spiritual array. She looked excitedly at a big tree not far away. On the crown of the tree, a 16 or 17-year-old boy was sitting with his arms crossed and his eyes closed. There was a piece of withered grass in his mouth. Nalanli looked at the young man with adoration. Her gaze was as if she was asking for credit. Qin Hao opened his eyes slightly and smiled. Not bad. The dragon imprisoning array was also taught to Nalanli by Qin Hao. At such a young age, Nalanli already possessed the strength of a 5-star yuan master. She was much stronger than Yi Shuihan. What was even more valuable was that when she gathered a spirit array, she was born with the ability to enter the heart array state. Her speed of gathering far surpassed that of ordinary people. This was something that Qin Hao admired very much. After receiving Qin Hao's praise, Nalanli was very happy and jumped up and down in excitement. Spirit array masters and alchemists were the same. There were a total of 9 grades. The Yuan Gathering Realm was the 1st grade, the Yuan Master Realm was the 2nd grade, and so on. Nalanli was currently a level 2 Spirit Array Master. The Dragon Imprisoning Array that Qin Hao taught her was a level 2 high-grade Spirit Array. Its power was boundless. It could even trap a low-grade Yuan Grandmaster. In Nalanli's eyes, Qin Hao was omnipotent. His research on spirit arrays was unimaginable. He was a mysterious and powerful man. During this period of time, Qin Hao's charm had completely conquered this little lowly's heart. Nalanli admired Qin Hao very much. She was even fanatical about him. She had once dreamed of becoming Qin Hao's disciple. Boss, don't praise little sister Shaoli just because she's cute. You should praise me too. My imprint has already been upgraded to level 7, haha. Yi Shuihan stroked his hair coquettishly. His hand that was holding the bow raised towards Qin Hao. On his arm, there was a level 7 imprint that was very eye-catching. This was the result of his hard work. He had learned the Condor Archery technique. In the future, he would no longer need to be afraid of others. He was now the true young Master Yi. Of course, this was all bestowed to him by Qin Hao. You are still SOSO. Your condor archery technique still needs to be honed, Qin Hao said indifferently. Yi Shuihan's aptitude wasn't bad. It was just that he liked to be absent-minded when doing things. If he worked harder, his archery technique would definitely be upgraded to a higher level. It had already been 7 days since they had defeated Yuan Huai. In these 7 days, Qin Hao's team of 3 had been working hard to upgrade their imprints and hunt the Xian beast. Along the way, they had also been plotted against by others. Unfortunately, there was Qin Hao, a powerful Sky Origin master, around. Those fellows who had come to rob them hadn't succeeded. Instead, they had been robbed by Qin Hao. That day, Qin Hao had robbed Yuan Huai of his level 8 imprint. Nalanli had absorbed Du Ziting's level 6 imprint. Yi Shuihan had also transferred the imprint of Yan Wanshan, who had turned into a corpse, to his own body. None of the members of the Daddy Axe gang who had knelt on the ground had escaped. Their imprints had all been taken away. They had cried their hearts out. It was a tragic sight. Not only had they lost their sumaru pouches, but they had also lost their imprint. Even the weapons in their hands were all stuffed into Qin Hao's spatial ring, regardless of whether they were scrap metal or metal. The Great Void Cauldron could refine all kinds of weapons and turn them into Yuan Qi for Qin Hao to use. How could he let it go? When I have time, I will study how to refine weapons into my body. Qin Hao nodded and jumped down from the tree. Now, on his arm, there was an extremely bright number that was emitting a holy halo. Level 9. Qin Hao was the first and only disciple in the history of Qiyang University to have a level 9 imprint in the last assessment. It also indicated that once he entered Qiyang University, he would become the only core disciple in the outer yard and would have the qualification to enter the inner yard. Master, wait for me. Xiao Han, wait for me too. Old drunkard, you said that not only would I become a disciple of Qiyang University, but I would also become the most outstanding person in the school. I have already done it with my actions. And Guadi and Wanqin, how are you doing in Mad Dragon Academy and Star Moon Academy? Did anyone bully you? Qin Hao lowered his head and pondered. He was a little worried and wanted to go to Mad Dragon Academy and Star Moon Academy. But first, he had to register at Qiyang University. In fact, it wouldn't take long for him to meet Xiaogua and Chen Wanqin. In 2 months, the outer yard of the 4 major schools would hold a rising star competition. Qin Hao remembered clearly that when Wang Gui escaped, he had threatened to kill Qin Hao in the rising star competition. This debt would be settled sooner or later. Boss, what do you want to say? Yi Shuihan walked over and asked. He was a little unhappy that he didn't get Qin Hao's praise, but his eyes were burning with a stronger fighting spirit. I thought of a few friends. Let's go. Today is the last day of the assessment, and the teleportation array is close. Let's not be late. Qin Hao patted Yi Shuihan's shoulder. The 3 of them walked forward at the same time. This trip would definitely shock the elders of Qiyang University who were guarding the array, and even the entire outer yard. Qin Hao was the only person with a level 9 imprint. No one else had done it before. Yi Shuihan and Nalanli also had level 7 imprints. Chapter 284. Chapter 284 Unified Handling Qiyang University, Outer Court, Mountain Gate Square. This place was incomparably grand, extremely spacious, and a cauldron of voices could be heard. In the center of the square there was a large teleportation array. The spirit array flickered with brilliance. Every time it flickered, several figures would appear. The figures that walked out of the spiritual array were undoubtedly the contestants that had survived the forest. Guarding the spiritual array were 2 old men. One of them was an old man in a gray robe with a gong mu hanging from his waist. The gong mu was the symbol of a deacon in the outer court. This gray-robed old man was a deacon. The other elder's aura was clearly more stable than the gray-robed elder's. He wore a white robe and had a dignified face. There was a palace stone hanging from his waist. Gong Shi corresponded to the status of an outer court elder. Behind the two of them stood countless students from Qiyang University. The students were in high spirit. Every time a few figures walked out of the spirit array, they would shout excitedly. Today was the day the academy was recruiting new students. As veteran students, they were here to join in the fun. Also, he wanted to see if there were any pretty female juniors who passed the exam. Pretty female juniors were quite popular in the academy. These older students relied on their strength to try to win the favor of some of the younger female students. In the future, they would get closer to them and make them their girlfriends. After all, Qiyang University was also a place that valued strength and appearance. Having a beautiful girlfriend by your side was a very prideful thing. In addition, they could also take this opportunity to show off in front of the new boys and teach the newbies a lesson. Bullying freshmen was a hobby of the older students. It had also become an unwritten rule of Qiyang University. Even the elders, deacons, and teachers would turn a blind eye if they saw the seniors beating up the freshmen. They felt that it was good to let the older students beat up the freshmen. It would suppress the freshmen's spirit and save them a lot of trouble when teaching them in the future. However, some of them were here to pick up their juniors from the sect. For example, there was a burly man with a rough face. His name was Mount Ibaraki, and he was from the Dali Kingdom. He had been informed in advance that his cousin Yen Wanshan had won the martial arts competition and would soon enter Qiyang University. His family had asked him to take care of him. "Why isn't my little brother here yet? I'm so worried." Mount Ibaraki wiped the sweat off his forehead. His appearance was similar to Yen Wanshan's, and he was very anxious. There was also a trace of anticipation in his heart. He and Yen Wanshan had not seen each other for many years and missed each other very much. Mount Ibaraki was ranked 8th in the outer yard. This time, he finally had the chance to show off in front of his cousin and let him see how impressive he was. Unfortunately, he still didn't know. His cousin had been killed by Qin Hao. Congratulations on making it to the outer court of Qiyang University alive. I'm your grandpa deacon, Kai Shichang. Now, please raise your arms in front of the old man. I want to check them one by one. Those with 3 or more segments of the imprint stand on my right. You'll all be assigned a place to stay later. Those who are below stage 3, I'm sorry, but I'll have to trouble you trash to stand on the left. Later, I'll get rid of you as well and send you back to your old homes so that you can embarrass yourselves in front of your parents. The world is just so cruel, the gray-robed old man said coldly. In fact, he didn't need to check. With a sweep of his eyes, he could see everyone's imprint very clearly. Suddenly, some of the contestants who walked out of the spiritual array were happy, some sad, and some even shed tears. There were also some who swore that they would pass the assessment next time to wash away the humiliation they suffered today. "Hello, Grandpa Kai. I've reached stage 3. A contestant said. "Well, not bad. You're qualified to be our ordinary disciple. Go to the right and register. Every month, you'll receive a piece of low-grade mysterious crystal," Kai Shichang said coldly. Trash and ordinary disciples were not worthy of his attention. "Grandpa Kai, my imprint has reached stage 4. Another contestant said. "Well, you two go to the right." Kai Shichang waved his hand. A person with a stage 4 imprint was only the best among the ordinary disciples. If he wasn't an excellent disciple, he was also trash. "Deacon Kai, my imprint is at stage 6. A young man proudly raised his head and looked at Kai Shichang with disdain. "Congratulations on becoming an excellent disciple of our academy. Your future is limitless. Go and register. Every month, you'll receive 10 pieces of low-grade mysterious crystal from our academy." Kai Shichang hurriedly bowed and said with a sunny smile on his face. Finally, there was an excellent disciple. Although Kai Shirchang's strength was much stronger than this disciple's, he knew that once an excellent disciple entered the academy, his body would undergo earth-shaking changes in less than a year. It would not be a problem for him to surpass him in strength. If he didn't please the excellent disciple now, it would be difficult to get close to him in the future. Suddenly, this excellent disciple attracted everyone's envious eyes. The low-grade mysterious crystal he received was 10 times more than the ordinary disciples. Perhaps he even had a different residence. This was the difference between an ordinary disciple and an excellent disciple. From the first step into the academy, the difference had already been created. The power contained in 1 piece of mysterious crystal and 10 pieces of mysterious crystal was also very different. In the future, the cultivation speed of the excellent disciples would be far beyond the reach of the ordinary disciples. Deacon Kai, my imprint is at stage 7, a cold and arrogant voice sounded. Then, a person walked out of the spiritual array with his hands behind his back and a dragon's step. His words caused everyone to be incomparably shocked. Stage 7 imprint. Oh my God, how did he do it? In such a cruel forest, he was able to raise his imprint to such a high level. Even the older students of Qiyang University were moved, shocked, and frightened. After all, they were all experienced people and knew very well how terrible the forest was. In addition to facing the Xian beast, they also had to face the plundering of many contestants. This disciple with a stage 7 imprint was not to be provoked. Congratulations to this young master for successfully becoming an excellent disciple. Quickly register and receive 20 low-grade mysterious crystals every month. Kai Shirchang was simply bowing to the stage 7 disciple to please him. Although like the stage 6 disciple, the stage 7 disciple was also an excellent disciple, but the treatment was very different. At this moment, many older students secretly remembered the stage 7 disciple's face. In the future, they would never find trouble with this person. To be able to reach stage 7 in the cruel forest, his strength must be monstrous. Stage 7 imprint with 2 brushes. Wu Xiong, later you go find that kid and tell him that I, Mount Ibaraki, allow him to join the Red Father Association. If he honestly joins, I will not treat him badly. If he doesn't, then he doesn't need to stay in the outer court anymore. Mount Ibaraki said coldly. There were dozens of gangs in the outer court, each with their own mountain top. If the new students did not have the support of the older students, even if they were excellent disciples, they would not be able to become excellent. After all, the older students would not allow the new students to grow and surpass them in the future. The inner court of the school was actually very dangerous. If the new students wanted to stand their ground, they must join a gang. Just a stage 7 trash, really like dog shit. Immediately after, a contemptuous voice sounded. It was undisguised sarcasm and ridicule towards the stage 7 disciple. The brilliance of the spiritual array flashed, and a black-robed youth slowly walked out. Chapter 285. Killing intent everywhere, F***CK. Who is this guy in black? So arrogant. 7th division mark. That is a rare 7th division mark. In his eyes it is like dog shit. Arrogant, arrogant to the extreme. The surrounding students pointed at Yuan Huai. This person was too much. Even Deacon Kai's brows were tightly knitted together. The forest assessment was quite difficult. It was what Qiyang University relied on to select the top disciples. Yuan Huai not only humiliated a 7th division disciple, but also trampled on Qiyang University. Who the hell are you? Kai Shirchang asked impatiently. If Yuan Huai did not come out of the spiritual array, it meant that he was a participant in the assessment. Kai Shirchang would have killed him with one palm. That's right, who do you think you are? Arrogant words, you dare to look down on me? Do you want to die? The 7th division disciple was angry as well. As he spoke, blue flames rose from the 7th Division disciple's body. His momentum was strong. He was ready to teach Yuan Huai a lesson, this guy who did not know the immensity of heaven and earth. As the blue energy rose from his body, there was an uproar around. Sure enough, the 7th Division disciple was a powerful Yuan Zong. A Yuan Zong powerhouse in the academy was enough to be ranked in the top 20 of the Earth list. The kid in black was probably going to suffer. I look down on you, it is your honor. In fact, in my eyes, you are just an unremarkable dog, Scram. Yuan Huai's gaze tightened as he shouted. Blue energy rose from his body. The blue flames were many times stronger than the 7th Division disciples. With one blow, he knocked the opponent to the ground. The 7th Division disciple spat out blood, his eyes filled with fear. Immediately, Yuan Huai's mouth crooked, revealing a contemptuous smile. The arm behind his back was raised in front of everyone. On his arm, there was a shocking 8 division mark. The surrounding people gasped. Strong. Really strong. No wonder he dared to be so arrogant, treating 7th-level disciples as pigs and dogs. He had the qualifications to be arrogant. Yuan Huai, who was dressed in black, actually had an astonishing 8-segment mark. He was also a Yuan Zong expert. However, Yuan Huai was able to make a level 7 disciple spit out blood with a single attack. It was obvious that Yuan Huai was stronger, and he was at least a 2-star Yuan Zong. At this moment, the dissatisfaction on the faces of the surrounding students immediately vanished, replaced by fawning expressions. The strong should be worshipped by everyone. Even Mount Ibaraki was stunned for a moment. He said in a low voice, "This person is difficult to deal with. He hasn't shown his full strength yet. I'm afraid he has some backing in the academy. Tell our people not to provoke him if they can, lest he brings me trouble." "Yes, boss," several members of Red Daddy Club behind him said. "What do you think, old man? Am I qualified to become a disciple of Qiyang University?" Yuan Huai curled his lips and asked Kai Shichong coldly with an arrogant expression. But in his heart, he was furious. He originally had the chance to raise his mark to level 9 and become the first person in history to do so. He had never thought that his previous mark would be snatched away by Qin Hao, who had even broken his wrist. In the past 7 days, he had hunted down and killed many contestants. He had even risked his life to kill 3 low-level beasts and used countless treasures to barely raise his mark to level 8. If his mark had not been snatched away by Qin Hao, there would definitely be a 9 on his arm now. This was all thanks to Qin Hao. Yes, yes, yes. Honorable young master, it is the honor of the academy to have you join Qiyang University. Kai Shichong replied fearfully as he wiped the cold sweat off his head. It had been many years since he had seen an level 8 mark. Other than the unprecedented level 9 mark, an level 8 mark was, in fact, the highest mark. If the higher-ups of the academy knew about this, it would definitely cause a commotion. Who knew how many elders would fight to take Yuan Huai as their disciple? In Kai Shichong's eyes, Yuan Huai was already the most outstanding freshman in the entire outer yard. But your level 8 mark is too shocking. My lowly status needs to report to the higher-ups of the academy. Then, the higher-ups will decide on your private residence and the number of mysterious crystals you can receive. Kai Shichong bowed respectfully, afraid that he would neglect Yuan Huai. At this moment, he suddenly remembered that Elder Wang was standing next to him. Wang Dajuan was an elder of the outer yard. His status was much higher than Kai Shichong's. Yuan Huai's mark was at level 8, so Elder Wang should have received him personally. But since Elder Wang arrived, he had been absent-minded and did not care about the contestants coming out of the spiritual array. In fact, Wang Dajuan was still absent-minded at this moment. He held a portrait in his hand and looked around from time to time. His eyes swept across the faces of the unfamiliar contestants, as if he was waiting for someone. If Yuan Huai was interested and stuck his head out to take a look at the portrait in Wang Dajuan's hand, he would be very surprised, or even angry. It was Qin Hao's face in the portrait. Even if his ancestors beat Yuan Huai to death or turned to ashes, he would never forget Qin Hao's face. I wonder how this person offended Shifu Academy's elder Ouyang. Wang Dajuan sneered inwardly. But fortunately, Qin Hao offended old man Ouyang, so he had the opportunity to work for Shifu Academy. If he could use this opportunity to get rid of Qiyang University's trash of a low-level elder and become a high-level elder of Shifu Academy, he would be able to get whatever he wanted in the future. The premise was that he had to kill Qin Hao first. He glanced at the setting sun. The assessment was about to end, but the person in the portrait still had not appeared. He most likely died in the forest. Well, it saved him some trouble. At this moment, he felt someone poke him with his arm. Elder Wang, what wonderful things are you thinking about? Speaking of which, an 8th-level disciple appeared in this assessment. You should quickly receive him. Kai Shirlai was so anxious that he was sweating. He had poked Wang Dajuan several times already, but the other side seemed to be sleepwalking, not responding at all. Oh, I'm coming, what did you say? An 8th-level disciple appeared? Wang Dajuan recovered from the beautiful dream of killing Qin Hao, but he was greatly alarmed in his heart. He looked at Kai Shichang in disbelief. An 8th-level disciple actually appeared in the assessment. Yes, this young master has been waiting for you for a long time. Kai Shichang pointed at Yuan Huai opposite him. At this moment, Yuan Huai's face was full of impatience. He had been ignored by Wang Dajuan for too long. Sorry, I've been having a lot of beautiful dreams recently. I dream of returning to the past and becoming a 17 or 18-year-old boy with all kinds of beautiful women. Ha, you know. Wang Dajuan said with a face full of embarrassment. He had to find a reason to avoid Yuan Huai. Then he said with a straight face, "But your imprint is at the 8th level, I can't make the decision. I need to report to the vice principal and let him decide." "No need, I will personally go find my master." "You trash don't need to worry about me. You're really ruining my mood." Yuan Huai directly interrupted Wang Dajuan. His heart was full of anger. Having his imprint taken away by Qin Hao had already made him very angry. A low-level trash elder dared to put on airs in front of him. This made Yuan Huai even more angry. His words did not give Wang Dajuan any face, but it did not arouse the other party's dissatisfaction. On the contrary, it was like a bomb had exploded on the spot. The explosion caused everyone's eyes to widen as they stood rooted to the ground. Chapter 286. This enmity must be avenged. The vice principal, Shimen Hua, could be said to be able to cover the sky with one hand in the outer court. He was second only to one person and above tens of thousands. In fact, the dean of the outer court had always been elusive and rarely managed the outer court. All this while, the vice principal had been the one in charge, and he had a lot of authority. Shimen Hua was only 30 years old. Not only was he young and promising, his strength was even more monstrous. It was rumored that he had always been arrogant and did not accept any disciples. Who would have thought that he would secretly take in Yuan Huai? Just what kind of monstrous talent was Yuan Huai to be able to catch the eye of the arrogant Vice Dean Shimen? At this moment, many people looked over suspiciously. They believed that Deputy Dean Shimen would never accept Yuan Huai. In the next moment, Yuan Huai proudly crooked his lips. His hand streaked across the sumaru pouch at his waist and a feather appeared in his palm. This was Gong Yu. This was simply shocking to the eyes of everyone present. The deacons of Qiyang University wore gong wood, the elders wore gong stone, and the grand elder wore gong jade. Only the principal and vice principal had the right to wear the palace feather. In the outer yard there were 2 palace feathers. One was golden and the other was silver. The silver feather in Yuan Huai's hand undoubtedly represented the arrival of Vice Principal Shimin Hua. Outer Court Deacon Kai Shichang greets the Vice Principal. Outer Academy's Old Wang Dajuan greets the Vice Principal. Outer Yard disciples greet the Vice Principal. Voila! Whether it was the elders, deacons, or disciples, they all knelt in front of the palace feather in Yuan Huai's hand. Seeing Gong Yu was like seeing Shimin Hua. Do you believe me now? Yuan Huai coldly put away the palace feather and muttered, "A bunch of dogs." In fact, this palace feather was lent to him by Shimin Hua. Once Yuan Huai stepped into Qiyang University, it would have to be returned to its rightful owner. Yuan Huai was a specially recruited student. Like Xiaogua and Chun Wanqin, he did not need to pass the test. However, he liked to be in the limelight and liked to kill people even more. That was why he acted recklessly in the forest. He felt that he should trample all the contestants under his feet and make them worship and submit to him. Unexpectedly, he suffered a great loss at the hands of Qin Hao. Not only was his mark taken away, but he was also almost beaten to death. This was Yuan Huai's only humiliation. However, this humiliation would disappear when Qin Hao entered Qiyang University. Yuan Huai's master was the vice dean. He had 108 ways to make Qin Hao die without anyone knowing. If I'm not mistaken, you should be young Master Huai from the Yuan family of the Tianlong Kingdom, right? After kowtowing, Wang Dajuan stood up and asked carefully. At least you have some eyesight. That's right, I am Yuan Huai, the only grandson of the Grand Duke of Tianlong Nation, Yuan Huai. The pride on Yuan Huai's face became even more arrogant. His words shocked everyone once again. The Tianlong Kingdom was the most powerful kingdom in western Liang. Aside from the three empires, it was the most powerful kingdom in western Liang. It was even recognized by the world as the Fourth Empire. The Yuan family ruled over the Tianlong Kingdom. Other than the royal family, no one dared to provoke them. Even the royal family did not dare to provoke them. Yuan Huai was actually the only grandson of the Yuan family's patriarch, Yuan Huai. No wonder Vice Dean Shimin liked him. With this status, background, and strength, he was worthy of being called a peerless genius. If that's the case, then this lowly one has indeed meddled in other people's business. I hope young Master Huai won't blame me. Wang Dajuan said very politely. I knew it. For a genius like senior brother Huai to treat a stage 7 disciple like a pig is natural. Senior brother Huai, I have admired you for a long time. I hope to stay by your side. Senior brother Huai, my sister is also in the school. She likes you very much, and has long wanted to be your maid. Senior brother Huai, I have a top-quality marrow-cleansing pill here. Although it is not the best and may be trash, I hope to give it to you free of charge. Senior brother Huai, please have pity on me and take care of me in the future. I am willing to do anything for you. Immediately, regardless of whether it was a new student or a senior, they all surrounded Yuan Huai and bowed to him. They were like a group of dogs trying to please him. Yuan Huai was the vice dean's only disciple. Receiving senior brother Huai's care was equivalent to receiving the vice dean's care. Maybe if the vice dean was happy, he would also accept him as a disciple. Senior brother Huai, I am just a pig or a dog. I hope you can be magnanimous and not hold a grudge against me. Just treat me like a black fart and let me go. Just now, that 7th-level disciple was also fearfully begging for Dao. He no longer had the courage to be Yuan Huai's enemy. Senior brother Huai, my name is Mount Ibaraki. I am the leader of the Outer Court's Red Daddy Association. I have 100 members under me and each of them is strong. However, I feel that I am not worthy of being the leader. I want to give the position to you and let you lead us to conquer Qiyang University and become the #1 overlord. As a senior student of Qiyang University, Even if he was ranked 8th on the Earth leaderboard, Mount Ibaraki still shamelessly bowed in front of Yuan Huai. Yuan Huai was the vice dean's disciple. He did not dare to offend him. "I think I have seen your face before." Yuan Huai frowned slightly. He looked at Mount Ibaraki and felt that his face was familiar. However, he could not recall where he had seen it before. "I have a common face. It is very common in the sea of people. That must be why Senior Brother Huai finds me familiar. I have to say that you are thousands or tens of thousands of times more handsome than me. You are a girl's dream lover and the nation's good husband." Yuan Huai could say something to Mount Ibaraki, which made him very surprised. He felt that his good days were coming. "Ha, a girl's dream lover and the nation's good husband? Sorry, he doesn't deserve it. Yes, as my brother Hao's defeated opponent. He can only run away with his tail between his legs." Stunned, 2 disdainful voices were heard. The voices were extremely discordant and even harsh. After all, they were all fawning over Yuan Huai. How dare they mock him? Who is the reckless guy who despises our Senior Brother Huai? I will be the first to punish him. Mount Ibaraki glared at them. With a thud, he pulled out an axe from his crotch. It was time to perform in front of Senior Brother Huai. This was his opportunity to make a contribution. His eyes swept through the crowd, but he did not find anyone who despised Yuan Huai. At this time, the spiritual array in the center of the square fluctuated, and 3 figures gradually walked out. At this moment, everyone held their breath and looked at the spiritual array without blinking. The voices that despised Yuan Huai came from the spiritual array. They wanted to see just which fellow had eaten the heart of a bear and the guts of a leopard, daring to go against the awesome Senior Brother Huai. He even dared to go against the Vice Dean. As the light gradually dissipated from the spiritual array, 3 people appeared in front of everyone. The man was handsome, the woman was beautiful, and there was even a wretched young master in the middle. They were Qin Hao, Nalan Li, and Yi Shuihan. "Ha! Yuan Huai, long time no see. Is your hand better?" Qin Hao put his hands behind his back and smiled at Yuan Huai. But his eyes were filled with killing intent. That day Yuan Huai almost killed Brother Dog. Brother Dog was still healing in the space ring. Chapter 287. How about 9 Dan? It's you. After seeing who it was, Yuan Huai was so angry that he couldn't speak. How could he forget Qin Hao? It was Qin Hao who had taken away his 8-segment mark. It was Qin Hao who broke his wrist. It was Qin Hao again who had slapped him more than 100 times in public, making him lose all face. He mercifully let Qin Hao be his dog. However, Qin Hao was not grateful at all. Instead, he wanted to resist him. This was a humiliation that Yuan Huai would never forget for the rest of his life. If not for Qin Hao, he would have already become a 9th-level disciple. F***ck, another group of people is here. The little girl is so pretty. Playboy is so wretched. The man in green in the middle is even more arrogant. He is looking down on Senior Brother Huai. The appearance of Qin Hao and the other 2 immediately became the focus of everyone present. Everyone pointed at them and discussed animatedly. "It's you?" Wang Dajuan was also stunned. The moment Qin Hao appeared, he quickly lowered his head to look at the portrait in his hand. The face on the portrait was exactly the same as Qin Hao's. Without a doubt, the young man in front of him was Old Man Ouyang's enemy. This made Wang Dajuan wild with joy. Qin Hao didn't die in the forest. He finally had the chance to serve the 10 Directions Academy. What? The reception elder of Qiyang University knows me? Qin Hao's gaze shifted and landed on Wang Dajuan. No, I don't know him. Wang Dajuan hurriedly rubbed his palm and crumpled the portrait into a ball of paper. He secretly circulated his yuan qi and burned it in his palm. At this moment, A sinister smile had already appeared on his face. How is it, Yuan Huai? Do you want to make a move now, or do you want us to slowly compete in the academy? In this kind of situation, it's a little inappropriate for you to make a move. I'm afraid you don't have the courage to fight me. Otherwise, shall we practice now? Qin Hao's lips curled into a smile. Yuan Huai was trembling with anger. He really wanted to kill Qin Hao. He couldn't wait to kill him. But he really didn't dare to make a move. Look at you. You don't dare? Where's your courage? Where was his arrogance? Where's your arrogance? Fell into the foot basin? Forgive me for speaking bluntly, but your 8th segment imprint is indeed dog shit. Qin Hao took a step forward and said with a sharp look in his eyes. He wanted to use Yuan Huai's arrogant method to repay the other party and let him experience the feeling of being humiliated. Qin Hao's words made Yuan Huai even more furious. Who do you think you are? What qualifications do you have to look down on senior apprentice brother Huai's proud 8-segment mark? Mount Ibaraki said coldly as he stood up for Yuan Huai. That's right, senior brother Huai's 8th segment imprint is the highest. He is the young master of Tianlong Country's Yuan family and was accepted as a disciple by the vice principal. Not only did you look down on senior brother Huai, but you also dared to be rude to the vice principal. You must be tired of living. There were madmen every year, but there were especially many today. The appearance of a 6th segment disciple had already made Deacon Kai admit defeat. The 7th segment disciple made Deacon Kai nod and bow. As a result, Yuan Huai came and looked at the 7th segment disciple as if they were pigs. Now it was even more outrageous. There was someone who looked down on Yuan Huai. At this moment, both freshmen and seniors were denouncing Qin Hao for Yuan Huai. In their view, Yuan Huai was fully deserving of the title and was the strongest among the freshmen. Yuan Huai's identity was prominent and he had the vice principal's support. What was Qin Hao? What qualifications did he have to look down on Ao Tian's 8th segment imprint? They didn't think that Qin Hao's imprint would be higher than Yuan Huai's. An 8th segment imprint was already the strongest among all the freshmen, unless Qin Hao's imprint reached the 9th segment. But that was absolutely impossible. Moreover, Yuan Huai's backer was the vice principal. Qin Hao dared to challenge Yuan Huai. He was simply overestimating himself. Did he not want to mingle in the outer court anymore? Unless Qin Hao also had a backer, and his backer had to be stronger than the vice principal. Looking at the entire outer court, only 2 people could be compared to the vice principal. The first person was the old principal. In fact, the old principal was the outer court's god. But he was elusive. Qin Hao definitely couldn't reach him. The other person was Elder Yun, who lived in White Cloud Peak. It had to be said that Elder Yun was young and beautiful, like a fairy sister. She was the dream lover of all the disciples in the outer court. Although she was young, her potential was endless. Even though she was also an elder, she wore a jade pendant, which was a palace jade, and not a palace stone. Only the outer court's great elders were qualified to wear a palace jade. In other words, Elder Yun Ing Chang was the next outer court great elder that the old principal had secretly cultivated. With her ability, it was very likely that she would become the new principal in less than 3 years, and even be promoted to the inner court. Even the vice principal, Shimen Hua, was currently pursuing Elder Yun like a mad dog. If Qin Hao could build a relationship with Elder Yun, these outer court disciples would be willing to write their names backward. That was something that would never happen. Therefore, he was digging his own grave by going against Yuan Huai. He was not qualified. Qualified? Of course, an 8th segment imprint is really nothing. Yi Shuihan chuckled and kept winking at the surrounding junior sisters and senior sisters from Qiyang University. As he spoke, he had already raised his arm high, revealing his 7th segment imprint. There was a sound of gasps around. Just now, a seventh segment disciple had appeared. Yi Shuihan was the second. In other words, he would become an outstanding disciple of the outer court. But a seventh segment imprint was not qualified to be compared to Yuan Huai's eighth segment imprint. Suddenly, some of the older students shook their heads. Yes, Brother Yi is right. An eighth segment imprint is really nothing. Even a little girl like me can easily become a seventh segment disciple. Then, Nalan Li also raised her jade-like arm with a smile, revealing her seventh segment imprint. Suddenly, there was a hissing sound. Another seventh segment disciple. When did seventh segment disciples become so common? It was a bit ridiculous. At this moment, a large number of male students looked at Nalan Li with eyes that could spit fire. Nalan Li was petite and cute, a beauty with a seventh segment imprint. If she could be their girlfriend, they would be willing to give up 10 years of their life. Like the male students, the female students' eyes were filled with envy and even jealousy. Nalan Li was so beautiful and an outstanding seventh segment disciple. Her future was immeasurable. It was only a matter of time before she surpassed the older students. Suddenly, Kai Shichong was overjoyed. There were 3 seventh segment disciples this year, more than in previous years. Qiyang University's freshmen this year would definitely surpass the other 3 schools. Little girl, your imprint is indeed high, much stronger than mine in the past. But you're still too weak. You shouldn't have spoken rudely to senior brother Huai. Mount Ibaraki laughed and acted very amiable. Naturally, he could not treat Nalan Li with a cold attitude like he treated Qin Hao. After all, Nalan Li was too beautiful. Mount Ibaraki was very eager to have her. In the past, Mount Ibaraki had exhausted all means and only managed to raise his imprint to the 6th segment. Nalan Li was stronger than him. Therefore, he had to persuade Nalan Li, hoping that she would not be an enemy of Yuan Huai. After all, a 7th segment imprint was not qualified. If a 7th segment imprint is not qualified, then what about a 9th segment? Qin Hao said coldly. Chapter 288. An imposter disciple 9th segment imprint? What a joke. Do you think I'm drinking cold water? 2 bowls and he could reach 9th stage? The 9-segment imprint was unprecedented in the history of Qiyang University. All the disciples present had participated in the forest test, which was incomparably cruel. If he wanted to upgrade his imprint to Phase 9, he would have to kill a saint beast. Or, he could steal at least 60% of the marks of the contestant. That was too difficult. It was no different from courting death. It was said that Senior Ao Fei, the current number 1 person in the cabinet of Qiyang University, also tried to challenge the 9-segment mark when he participated in the assessment. However, he still failed in the end. He first challenged a low-level Saint Beast and escaped with heavy injuries. Then, he tried to wantonly plunder the participant's imprint. Unfortunately, time was limited. He only had 10 short days, so he didn't have the chance. In the end, his imprint only rose to the peak of the 8th phase. The peak of the 8th stage became the highest record in Qiyang University. Back then, Ao Fei Academy had become a 6-star Yuan ancestor as a new student. Currently, he was the number 1 person in the cabinet. How could Qin Hao do something that even he couldn't do? In the eyes of all the students of Qiyang University, Ao Fei was like a god. No one could break his record. At this moment, even Manager Kai and Wang Dajuan smiled at Qin Hao with disdain. He was simply overestimating himself. Why didn't he take a piss and look at his own face? But as Qin Hao raised his arms in front of him from behind, countless slaps landed on Manager Kai and Wang Dajuan's faces, as well as the mouths of all the seniors. 9th phase. A dazzling, sacred, and inviolable number appeared on Qin Hao's arm. It was as if a shocking bolt of lightning had struck everyone's heads, causing their bodies to tremble, and they were charred on the inside and tender on the outside. They rubbed their eyes so hard that their eyelids started to bleed. However, the 9 segments of the imprint were still dazzling. This was not an illusion. Oh my God! Is it real or fake? 9-segment imprint, an unprecedented 9-segment imprint has appeared. Even Senior Ao Fei didn't manage to do it back then. Now, someone has surpassed him. He broke Ao Fei's record. An earth-shattering shout resounded in the square of the outer courtyard. It spread like a plague and instantly engulfed the entire outer courtyard. Am I blind? Is this AF * King God? Deacon Kai and Wang Dajuan's eyes were also wide open, and their mouths were wide open. Impossible! This is absolutely impossible! Mount Ibaraki was scared silly. Creak! Yuan Huai clenched his fists so tightly that his palms were bleeding. He gnashed his teeth in hatred. Sure enough, Qin Hao's imprint had risen to the 9th phase. That dazzling 9th phase imprint should have belonged to Yuan Huai. After the competition started, he killed the Yuan Zhong experts on the 5 platforms in a frenzy. There were very few people who escaped the net. In just 3 days, he had swept through almost half of the contestants at an astonishing speed. In the end, he raised the imprint to the limit of the 8th phase. Who would have thought that Qin Hao would take advantage of it and snatch it away from him? During this period, Qin Hao was fully confident that he could easily raise the peak of the 8th phase imprint to the 9th phase. The unprecedented 9th phase disciple should have belonged to Yuan Huai. He hated it. He was furious. He wanted to jump up and kill someone. However, he was no match for Qin Hao. Even his demonic eye technique was useless against Qin Hao. What do you think? Lord Deacon, Lord Elder? Do I have the right to look down on Yuan Huai? Do I have the right to step into Qiyang University? Qin Hao lowered his arm and asked. Kai Shichang and Wang Dajuan still hadn't reacted. They were still staring blankly at him for a long time. Yes. His ancestor's 9-segment imprint has given me the greatest shock of my life. Young master, your imprint is too high, so high that I cannot make the decision. I must personally report this to the vice principal. Kai Shichang was about to kneel down in front of Qin Hao. A 9th phase disciple. How powerful was he? If the old guys in the inner yard knew about it, they would definitely snatch Qin Hao away and make him an inner yard disciple. Even if Kai Shichang had 10,000 guts, he wouldn't dare to neglect Qin Hao. Wait! At this time, Wang Dajuan also came back to his senses. His tone was cold as he looked at Qin Hao with a questioning gaze. The 9th phase imprint is unprecedented. I suspect that your imprint was obtained through improper means. You have to be interrogated by the elders. I said that there were so few qualified contestants this year. They must have been killed by you. These contestants were carefully selected by Qiyang University. They were brought here from various countries' martial arts competitions. You killed them just like that. You've committed a heinous crime. I have the responsibility to uphold justice and kill a murderer like you. Wang Dajuan had received benefits from old man Ouyang. Naturally, he wouldn't give Qin Hao a chance to enter Qiyang University. As long as he killed Qin Hao now, he could leave Qiyang University and get rid of his status as a low-level elder. He could become a high-level elder in Shifu Academy. That's right, his imprint was stolen from me. The 9th phase imprint should belong to me, and I am the unprecedented 9th phase disciple. With a thunderous roar, Yuan Huai almost lost his mind and roared at the sky. He said that after the start of the competition, he risked his life and killed several low-level demonic beasts to raise his imprint to the peak of the 8th phase. Qin Hao was hiding in the dark. He took advantage of Yuan Huai's injury and shamelessly stole his 8th phase imprint. And this imprint should have belonged to Yuan Huai. He killed his fellow disciples and plundered them. He's a sinister villain who only knows how to hide in the dark and shoot arrows. I suggest that you kill Qin Hao immediately and let me absorb the 9th phase imprint. This is also my master's idea. Elder Wang, you won't disobey my master's idea, right? Yuan Huai sneered at Wang Dajun. There was an undisguised threat in his words. Offending Yuan Huai was the same as offending the vice dean. Although he didn't have the ability to fight with Qin Hao, Wang Dajun had the ability to kill Qin Hao. Of course. I don't think this kid is a good person. Maybe he didn't even come from the Four Nations martial arts competition. He must be a fake. Good, you scoundrel. Since you killed a disciple of my Scarlet Sun Academy, I'll kill you right now to avenge my disciple. Die. Wang Dajun had received benefits from Old Man Ouyang and wanted to kill Qin Hao. Now that he had Yuan Huai's support, it gave him a legitimate excuse to make a move. Immediately, a ball of orange yuan qi erupted. Wang Dajun was a saint-level expert. Although he was just a trash mortal saint, he was far from someone Qin Hao could fight against. Without any hesitation, he pressed his palm toward Qin Hao's head. If this palm fell, Qin Hao would die without a burial place. Let's see who dares. Stop. Yi Shuihan and Nalan Li immediately blocked him. Unfortunately, their strength was too low. How could they be Wang Dajun's opponent? Wang Dajun wanted to kill Qin Hao. He was about to go crazy. With just his aura, he directly sent Yi Shuihan and Nalan Li flying, seriously injuring them. Chapter 289. Chapter 289. The Jade was stolen. Who says I'm not a contestant from the Four Nations martial arts tournament? At this critical moment, Qin Hao was forced to take out the white jade token. This token was personally given to Qin Hao by Yuning Chang before they entered the forest. During the Four Nations martial arts tournament, Yuning Chang was very interested in Qin Hao's cultivation method. She was also proficient in inscription patterns, so she had the idea of studying cultivation methods with Qin Hao. She gave the token to Qin Hao so that after Qin Hao entered the academy, it would be convenient for him to go to White Cloud Peak to find her. At this critical moment, Qin Hao raised the white jade token above his head. Immediately, Old Man Wang's old eyes widened and he immediately withdrew his palm. He had only missed the white jade token by half an inch. If it was hit, the white jade token would definitely shatter. Do you recognize this item? Qin Hao said solemnly. I was born in the poorest Jiang kingdom in the west. It was Sister Yuning Chang who brought me here and gave me this jade as a gift. Crack. It was as if a bolt of lightning had struck before his eyes. Deacon Kai, Wang Dajun, and the other students were once again dazzled. Their mouths were wide open in disbelief. The white jade token was an item that Elder Yun always carried with him. It was a palace jade and symbolized the identity of the Outer Yard Great Elder. Sure enough, Qin Hao had a backer. But wasn't this background a little too terrifying? As everyone knew, Yuning Chang was as cold as ice. She never allowed strangers to get close to her, especially men. Not to mention the male disciples, even the vice principal Shiman Hua had to stand at the foot of the White Cloud Peak and wait for half a day to see Elder Yun. Qin Hao, on the other hand, had a white jade token. It could be seen that his relationship with Elder Yun was not ordinary. But if they knew that Qin Hao had hugged Yuning Chang's slender waist at the martial arts competition, interlocked their fingers, and rolled back and forth on the ground, their eyeballs would probably fall to the ground. If Shiman Hua found out about this, he might even kill Qin Hao. I have seen this token before. It is indeed Elder Yun's token. Unbelievable! He actually got the white jade token. Looks like his 9-segment mark isn't just for show. There must be something special about it. The way the surrounding students looked at Qin Hao had changed. They no longer doubted him, nor did they dare to show a trace of dissatisfaction. All of them became respectful. With Elder Yun's support, although it was not as impressive as Yuan Huai's, who had the Vice Dean's support, it was not much worse. In the future, Qin Hao would definitely soar in the outer yard. These disciples could not afford to offend Yuan Huai, and similarly, they could not afford to offend Qin Hao. Elder Wang, you see, Kai Shichong had a bitter expression. In fact, he was also very curious as to why Wang Dajuan suddenly tried to kill Qin Hao. However, you won't be able to kill him now. If Qin Hao loses even half a strand of his hair, Yuning Chang will definitely turn the outer court upside down. Indeed, Wang Dajuan's eyelids began to twitch fiercely, and the yuan qi on his body also disappeared. Just now, when he saw the white jade token, he immediately withdrew his hand. Obviously, he was wary of Yun Yingchang's strength. It's just a broken token. What's there to be proud of? I have the palace feather. Wang Dajuan, listen to my orders. Immediately kill Qin Hao. Yuan Huai would not give up until he killed Qin Hao. Immediately, he took out the silver feather from his sumaru bag again. He wanted to see if his master was more powerful, or that Elder Yun was more powerful. Since the Vice Dean's palace feather is here, the old man has no choice but to obey. And I suspect that the white jade token in this thief's hand was stolen by him. Elder Yun will not hand over the palace feather. Good, you dare to steal the palace jade of the outer court's grand elder, and blaspheme the beautiful Elder Yun. Why don't you roll over to the old man's palm and die? Wang Dajuan hardened his heart. Orange yuan qi erupted once again, enveloping his body. He directly made Qin Haoku a cuckold for stealing. In fact, no one here believed Wang Dajuan's words. It was Qin Hao's first time at Qiyang University, and he did not have the ability to steal the palace jade from Yun Yingchang, who was a profound sage-level expert. It had to be said that Wang Dajuan was really shameless. He raised his hand once again, and orange yuan qi condensed in his palm. In any case, he was about to leave Qiyang University. With the support of Shifang Academy in the future, Wang Dajuan was not afraid of Yun Yingchang's revenge. You've gone too far. Qin Hao roared, and powerful blue yuan qi spread out from his body. At this moment, heaven and earth were moved. The surrounding students were also shocked. Qin Hao was indeed a Ming Yuanzong. His aura was indeed much stronger than Yuan Huai's. All signs showed that he was better than Yuan Huai. But unfortunately, Wang Dajuan had the support of Yuan Huai, and Yuan Huai had the Vice Dean's palace jade. Qin Hao still had to die. At this moment, many students felt sorry for Qin Hao. You're just an ant, yet you dare to be an enemy of the old man. You're overestimating yourself. Seeing that Qin Hao dared to resist him, Wang Dajuan, who was an elder, felt that he had lost face. His heart darkened, and he mercilessly slapped at Qin Hao. Qin Hao was also prepared to release the red lotus fire. Do I want to die? Then let's die together. I'd rather die in battle than be trampled on and bullied by others. Stop. Stop for the old man. Wang Dajuan, you dare? Several loud shouts sounded at the same time. The voices came from afar, but in an instant, they reverberated in everyone's ears. Suddenly, one figure after another streaked across the sky, flying over from several peaks in the outer yard. In the blink of an eye, they were in front of Qin Hao and Wang Dajuan. They were a group of gray-haired old men. Strong orange primordial qi surged on each of them. Their primordial qi was stronger than Wang Dajuan's. They were the elders of the outer yard. In fact, when Wang Dajuan released his killing intent for the first time, they had already sensed it and spread their consciousness to the square. Especially when they found out that Qin Hao had the white jade token, the elders were shocked. Now, Wang Dajuan had ignored the authority of the first elder, Yuning Chang, and wanted to kill him. Naturally, the other elders would not agree. After all, Qin Hao was a disciple of Qiyang University. Oh, my little Li, why are you lying on the ground? Who hurt you like this? While they were talking, an old man wearing a golden robe noticed Nalan Li, who was lying on the ground in the crowd. The old man in the golden robe suddenly opened his eyes wide, gritting his teeth in hatred. His gaze could kill all the disciples present. "Woo-woo! Grandpa Muddlehead, it's that Elder Wang, he wants to kill me!" Nalanli cried in grievance. "Wang Dajuan, F***ck your father's balls." Immediately, the old man in the golden robe was like an angry bear. His body flashed, and he was already on Wang Dajuan's face. He slapped Wang Dajuan to the ground, and punched and kicked Wang Dajuan, turning him into a pig's head. Wang Dajuan was wearing a white robe and was a low-level elder. The old man in the golden robe, nicknamed Muddlehead, was a high-level elder of Qiyang University and the only grandmaster of spiritual array in the outer yard. He was much stronger than Wang Dajuan. "Brother Muddlehead, why did you hit me?" Wang Dajuan could not resist at all in the hands of Muddlehead. He cried with a bloody nose and a swollen face. "She is my specially enrolled student, my personal disciple of spiritual array. You dare to hit my disciple?" Muddlehead pointed at Nalanli, and he even had the intention to kill Wang Dajuan. In fact, Nalanli was the same as Yuan Huai. She was also a specially enrolled student. Chapter 290. Of course it was related. He begged and coaxed before Nalanli agreed to acknowledge him as her master. At that moment, the confused old man was so happy that he jumped 3 feet high, his crotch almost cracked. Originally, Nalanli did not need to accept the forest assessment. Her sister, Naransu, had once participated in the forest selection. Nalanli felt that she should be as brave as her sister. But now, the beloved disciple of the confused old man, little Nalanli, had been beaten to the ground by Wang Dajuan. She simply did not put her father in her eyes. "Aya, young master, why are you also lying on the ground? Oh my God, are you about to die?" Following the confused old man, another cry sounded. A page boy rushed out of the crowd and ran to Yishuahan's side in a panic. He fed the pills in his hand into Yishuahan's mouth, as if his life depended on it. One jar after another, it was as sharp as drinking cold water. This scene made the hearts of the audience tremble wildly, their faces filled with grief and indignation. What a wastrel! In the page boy's hand was a top-grade blood recovery elixir, and a top-grade vitality elixir, high-grade heart-stabilizing elixir. Just like that, it was poured into his mouth? So much so that the page boy wished he could stuff all the bottles into Yishuahan's mouth. "Shuehan, who hurt you so badly?" Behind the page boy, another old man wearing a golden robe came out. His aura was overflowing, the yuan qi in his hand was also pouring into Yishuahan's body. He was afraid that Yishuahan would die. The second old man in the golden robe was recognized by many of the contestants present. Qin Hao also recognized him. It was the old man Huang who supervised platform number 3. At that time, when Yishuahan spat into the groove of the ugly stone, old man Huang did not blame him at all. There was even a trace of respect and complaint on his face. "It was that old bastard surnamed Wang who broke all my bones. You know, my strength is low, I'm actually a trash, I don't have the slightest ability to protect myself. He's a saint-level master, and this guy almost killed me. Ouch, it hurts so much. It seems that I'm not lucky enough to know my own secret, and I'm not lucky enough to find my mother." Sob, sob. "Father, did you see your son suffer? Mother, if you were still alive, would you teach old man Huang a lesson and accuse him of failing to protect us?" Yishuahan wailed miserably and rolled on the ground. In order to show his miserable state, he shamelessly punched his chest and spat out a mouthful of blood. The blood smeared all over his face, and he even used his hand to stick his hair into a messy mess. It was as if he had been gang-raped by dozens of hooligans. In front of thousands of pairs of eyes, he was directing and acting on his own, committing all sorts of atrocities. Tragic! How miserable! But in fact, Yi Shuihan wasn't injured at all. He had a lot of life-saving treasures on his body, and he wore 7 or 8 sets of armor alone. Although he was as thin as a wolf, he had 3 sets of inner armor and 3 sets of outer armor. Even the material of his underwear had reached the level of a low-grade weapon. Not to mention a mere 7-star mortal sage like Wang Dajuan. Even if it was a heavenly saint powerhouse, if he wanted to kill Yi Shuihan with a single blow, he would have to be injured. In fact, Old Man Huang naturally knew what kind of character Yi Shuihan was, and he also knew that he had a lot of treasures on him. Even so, at this moment, his heart was fiercely twitching. It was all because of one word: tragic. Yi Shuihan's cries were tragic, and his appearance was even more tragic. Ouch, I'm so angry. You dog Wang Dajuan, I'm going to King kill you. Old Man Huang angrily roared, and his incomparably dense vitality was released. At this moment, his strength as a 4-star profound sage erupted. He was actually 1 star stronger than Yuning Chang. With a thud, Old Man Huang pulled out a sledgehammer from his crotch. It was 3 meters long, and the head of the hammer was as big as a water tank. The first blow was aimed at Wang Dajuan's head. Wang Dajuan was only a weak 7-star mortal sage. How could he be a match for a 4-star profound sage? With this blow, he would definitely turn into a meat patty. Senior Brother Huang, you mustn't. Senior Brother Huang, calm down. Senior Brother Huang, quickly put the sledgehammer back. Immediately, more than a dozen old men pulled Old Man Huang back. After all, Wang Dajuan was an elder of the outer court. Even if he was a low-level elder, he couldn't be killed with a single blow. If he was killed by Old Man Huang, he would also be severely punished, and he might even be expelled from Qiyang University. Senior Brother Huang, why are you risking your life to kill me? I didn't offend you. Wang Dajuan kowtowed with tears in his eyes, begging for Old Man Huang's forgiveness. Old Man Huang was one of the few profound sages in the outer court. He had quite a lot of seniority, and was from the same generation as the old dean. Even if he smashed Wang Dajuan to death with his sledgehammer, the old dean would probably turn a blind eye to it. He is the son of my former master. In other words, I'm an old servant of his family. You only need to remember that his surname is Yi Shuihan. If Yi Shuihan dies, it won't be good for anyone. To put it bluntly, if he loses even half a hair, the Luoshui Empire will collapse, and Qiyang University will cease to exist. Don't doubt my words. Otherwise, even the vice dean of the cabinet won't be able to protect you, a son of a bitch who ate an expired cucumber. Old Man Huang cursed angrily as he swung the huge hammer in his hand, creating gusts of wind. Even if he was pulled back by more than a dozen elders, he still almost hit Wang Dajuan with his sledgehammer. At this moment, Wang Dajuan wanted to commit suicide. He could have offended anyone, but he just had to offend the only master of spirit arrays in the outer court, the muddle-headed old man. He could have offended anyone, but he just had to offend Old Man Huang, who had a sledgehammer in his pants. Old Man Huang was the fiercest and most hot-tempered person in the entire outer court. Even the old dean was somewhat afraid of him. I was wrong. I, Wang Dajuan, was blind. I didn't recognize the disciple of the muddle-headed old man, nor did I recognize the identity of young Master Yi. I really deserve to die. But what does this have to do with Qin Hao? Wang Dajuan was also extremely unconvinced. He never thought of hurting Yi Shuihan and Nalanli. They ran out of their own accord and blocked the attack for Qin Hao. Of course it has something to do with it. Brother Hao protected me all the way in the forest, cared for me, and protected me. He saved me from the hands of evil people many times. He is my brother. Moreover, Master, Brother Hao's research on spirit arrays is quite advanced. I learned a lot of spirit arrays from him. If you have the chance, you must humbly ask him for advice. Also, in fact, my 7-segment mark was improved by Brother Hao, he. Nalanli smiled cheekily, patted the dust off her body, and got up as if nothing had happened. In fact, she had gathered a protective spirit array on her body in advance just now, so she had suffered very little damage. But her words made everyone sigh. Qin Hao was an unprecedented 9-segment disciple. Not only did he have the support of Elder Yun, but he was also a spirit array master. And what did the little girl say just now? They didn't hear it wrong, right? The little girl actually asked the only elder of spirit arrays in the outer court of Qiyang University to humbly ask for advice from Qin Hao. How advanced was his ancestor Qin Hao's spirit arrays? What was even more terrifying was that the 7-segment mark on Nalanli's body was given out by Qin Hao. Why didn't he give them a 7-segment mark if there was such a good thing? Chapter 291. I've wronged you. Oh? Then if I have time, old man would really like to ask for advice. The confused old man couldn't help but take a few more glances at Qin Hao. Of course, he didn't think that Qin Hao's ability in array formations would be stronger than his. In his eyes, Qin Hao's array formations were only superficial and couldn't enter his eyes at all. The key was that Qin Hao had taken good care of Nalanli along the way and saved her several times. He even helped Nalanli raise the mark to the 7th stage. The confused old man would remember this favor in his heart. After thinking for a moment, he nodded and said, "If you have some aptitude in spirit arrays, old man will allow you to stay in the 3rd summit and become a spirit array apprentice. Of course, an apprentice is only an apprentice. I won't take you in as a disciple." The confused old man's disciple could only be Nalanli. It was already a great fortune for him to let Qin Hao sneak a peek at him while he cast the array formation. The confused old man's words immediately caused a commotion in the surroundings. Many disciples looked at Qin Hao with envy. Even if they couldn't become the confused elder's disciple, it was still a great honor to watch from the side. "Thank you, kid." Qin Hao cupped his hands slightly and appeared very calm. "Tsk, a mere spirit array is nothing to be proud of. Boss, you don't have to be humble. Your technique is definitely not inferior to the confused elders. It's not just spiritual arrays. My boss is a master of hundreds of skills and knows everything. His archery skills are especially mysterious. Ever since I learned 2 archery skills, taking a person's head from 10 steps away is as easy as taking something out of my pocket." "Ha ha! Wonderful!" Yi Shuihan licked his lips and secretly shook his head proudly. His words were filled with admiration for Qin Hao. "Moreover, my mark was also given to me by my boss. So, Old Man Huang, do you understand what I mean?" Yi Shuihan gave Old Man Huang a look. In other words, Qin Hao was his boss. In the future, he had to pay attention to him and take care of him. His Yi Shuihan's words once again made everyone reveal a surprised expression. Not only did Qin Hao understand spiritual arrays, but his archery skills were also unfathomable. He only taught Yi Shuihan 2 moves, and he was able to take a person's head from 10 steps away as easily as taking something out of his pocket. What was even more surprising was that Yi Shuihan's 7-segment imprint was also given to him by Qin Hao. What kind of monster was he? His own imprint was at the 9th phase, and he had to survive in the cruel forest with 2 burdens. He also raised the imprints of the 2 slippery bottles to the 7th phase. Qin Hao's ability was ridiculously strong. "Thank you." Old Man Huang expressed his gratitude to Qin Hao. He didn't say much, but his eyes were sincere. At the very least, he was more sincere than the muddle-headed old man. It was not hard to see that he would definitely take care of Qin Hao in the future. "In that case, come to the 4th peak when you have time. I want to personally see your archery skills. If I'm satisfied, I'm willing to accept you as my disciple." A middle-aged man in his 40s walked out and looked at Qin Hao. The middle-aged man was also wearing a golden robe, and his aura was quite steady. In particular, his big hands were very special. They were broad, powerful, and covered with calluses. His arms were also much thicker than an ordinary person's. It could be seen that the middle-aged man's wrist and arm strength were absolutely amazing. Another series of gasps could be heard. The golden-robed middle-aged man was the only archery elder in the outer court. His name was Siet Songhu, and he was a one-star profound sage. Although his strength was not high, his archery skills were unparalleled among all the elders. Looking at his intention, it seemed that he wanted to accept Qin Hao as his disciple. Immediately, the surrounding disciples looked at Qin Hao with even more envy. He had just arrived at the academy and was already admired by many elders. These disciples were envious, but there was also a trace of jealousy in their hearts, especially Yuan Huai, whose jealousy and anger were written all over his face. His master was much nobler and more powerful than all the elders present. Seeing so many people praising Qin Hao, he felt very unhappy. If you want to praise someone, you should praise me, Yuan Huai. However, no matter how unhappy he was, he couldn't do anything to Qin Hao. Now that the confused old man Huang, and Siet Songhu were supporting Qin Hao, even if Wang Dajuan was given 100 guts, he wouldn't dare to make a move. However, it's an indisputable fact that this kid stole Elder Yun's Jade Palace. His behavior is vile, and his conduct is improper. He is not qualified to be a disciple of our academy. I think that we should kick him out of Qiyang University. Wang Dajuan got up from the ground and looked at Qin Hao with a trembling face. He gritted his teeth. Today, he had lost all his face in front of all the disciples of the outer court. It was all because of Qin Hao. He couldn't kill Qin Hao now, but that didn't mean that he wouldn't have a chance in the future. If Qin Hao was kicked out, then his chance would come. Killing Qin Hao would be as easy as killing an ant. Wang Dajuan, are you blind? Did you see Qin Hao steal Elder Yun's Jade Palace with your own eyes? Old man Huang shouted angrily. His anger had just been extinguished, but it burned again. Although I didn't see it with my own eyes, who can guarantee that Qin Hao didn't steal the Jade Palace? Unless you go to Baiyun Peak and ask Elder Yun to come down and testify for Qin Hao. Wang Dajuan sneered. Yuning Cheng's Baiyun Peak was sacred. Even the vice dean didn't dare to step foot on it. You're just old man Huang. How dare you invade Yun Cheng's territory? What's the use of being powerful? You don't even dare to go. Today, Qin Hao must be kicked out. At this moment, Wang Dajuan regained his composure. He felt that he was very capable. What's the use of having a high-level elder? He couldn't do anything. How useless! In fact, many disciples, including the other elders, sighed. Indeed, no one dared to trespass on Baiyun Peak. As for Yun Chang showing up in person, that was absolutely impossible. 5 days ago, the news of Yun Chang's cultivation had spread throughout the outer court. At this moment, she was in seclusion. How about it? I'm kicking Qin Hao out of Qiyang University now. Does anyone have any objections? Let's see who can stop me, Wang Dajuan. Wang Dajuan and Yuan Huai looked at each other and smiled sinisterly. No one could stop their arrogance anymore. I have an objection. Stunned, a female voice sounded. It was very pleasant to the ears, like the chirping of an oriole. Everyone's heart trembled at the same time. They couldn't help but look at the source of the voice. The moment he turned his head, Wang Dajuan suddenly had a bad feeling. When his gaze landed, his eyes widened even more. He saw a figure in white walking over. Her face was otherworldly, and her temperament was like that of a goddess. Everyone's heart pounded. Even Yuan Huai couldn't help but swallow. Beautiful. Too beautiful. A peerless beauty rarely seen in the world. The person who came was naturally Yun Ing Chang. When she appeared, everyone was in disbelief. Elder Yun had always disliked noise and rarely showed her face in public. Moreover, wasn't she in seclusion? Why did she come down from the sacred Baiyun Peak? Although they were surprised, many male students' faces instantly turned red. The goddess of their dreams had appeared. However, what was even more surprising was that Yuning Chang had a smile on her face. Her smile was like a spring breeze, but her gaze ignored everyone present. She actually walked through the crowd and went directly to Qin Hao's side. She reached out a fair hand and touched Qin Hao's face. She wiped the dust off his face. Sorry for the inconvenience. Crack. Everyone's eyes almost fell out of their sockets. This. Chapter 293. 10 days later, there was a battle. That's right. Whether it's a mule or a horse, we'll know once you fight with my boss. Yuan Huai, do you dare to fight? Yi Shuihan took a step forward and stood shoulder to shoulder with Qin Hao, boosting Qin Hao's momentum. You keep saying that my brother Hao is not as good as you. Who ran away in the forest with his tail between his legs? Who was it that was slapped in public? Who was it that was beaten black and blue? Who was it that was beaten black and blue? Yuan Huai, I really admire your courage to slander my brother Hao. Nalanli felt that Qin Hao's treatment was unfair. As a core disciple, not only did he not receive the respect he deserved, he was even trampled on. Using martial arts to determine the winner and loser, to compete for the position of core disciple, this is very fair, I agree. Old man Huang nodded. I agree. I agree too. Immediately, a large number of elders chose to stand behind Yuning Chang. Usually, Ouyang Hua didn't care about them at all. Yuning Chang, on the other hand, was well-behaved and sensible. She was very respectful to these elders. They would definitely help First Elder Yuning Chang. To be honest, many elders were unwilling to accept the fact that Qin Hao's disciple with a 9th level mark could only receive a piece of garbage low-grade glazed crystal every month. Yuan Huai, I'll ask you one last time. I'll also give you a chance to turn the tables. Do you dare to fight me? Qin Hao shouted and took another step forward. He was almost in front of Yuan Huai. His aura also caused Yuan Huai to retreat with a fearful expression. The horrifying scene of Qin Hao counterattacking was still vivid in his mind. To this day, Yuan Huai still couldn't figure out how Qin Hao had advanced from a 7-star Yuan master to an origin ancestor. Moreover, his eye technique was completely useless against Qin Hao. The ocular technique was Yuan Huai's strongest killing move. It was no exaggeration to say that his ocular technique could defeat a 4-star Yuan ancestor. However, it didn't work on Qin Hao. Qin Hao was a shadow in Yuan Huai's heart. He felt that Qin Hao was not a human, but a monster. He had no courage to fight with Qin Hao. Revolt, all of them? Who dares to provoke Vice Principal Ouyang's Gong Yu? Are you guys planning to commit murder? Are you trying to frame the poor young Master Huai? Young Master Huai is the personal disciple of the Vice Principal, and also the grandson of the Sky Dragon Nation's Grand Duke. He is the only heir of the Yuan family. He has a respectable status. How could he compete with a lowly commoner like Qin Hao? Qin Hao is not qualified. The moment I saw Qin Hao, I knew that he was up to no good. He must be a despicable person with no real ability. I will fight in Senior Brother Huai's place. Qin Hao, do you dare to fight with Mount Ibaraki? Elder Wang immediately brought up Ouyang Hua.